Welcome back, dear colleagues. So we will resume our discussion, and I would like to hand the floor to Zambia. Zambia, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Zambia, as one of the leading brands of peace and democracy in Africa, strongly supports the inscription of Rwanda's genocide memorial sites. Given their singularity and outstanding global symbolism, we believe that this nomination is congruent with the principles outlined in UNESCO 1972 Convention, which recognizes the importance of preserving cultural heritage sites of outstanding universal value. Mr. Chairman, indeed, the choice to nominate these 4 sites among hundreds of other sites is a decision taken by the Rwandan people. As it is stipulated in the Convention's operation guidelines, the selection of sites for inclusion on the World Heritage List should reflect their outstanding universal value and meet specific criteria. Mr. Chairman, in this case, the Rwandan government, motivated and guided by law, that is Statutory Instrument number 15 of 2016, has carefully identified these memorial sites based on their historical and cultural significance. Mr. Chairman, these 4 nominated sites are drawn from 8 sites at national level, demonstrating Rwanda's commitment to preserving and commemorating the tragic events of its history. This selection process aligns with the operational guidelines that emphasize the importance of ensuring that nominated properties meet conditions of authenticity and integrity. Each of these sites represents a unique aspect of genocide as recognized by law, with the Nyamata symbolizing victims killed in religious institutions, Murambi representing those killings in public places, Gisozi embodying victims killed on various barriers across the country, and Bisesero highlighting the courage and resistance displayed by those who fought their lives. In terms of support for inscription, Mr. Chairman, therefore, as the information on the history is contained in the nomination dossier as well as in the note on factual errors, the Zambian delegation supports the amendment proposed by the State Party of South Africa to inscribe this property on the World Heritage List. We believe that this nomination not only aligns with the principles of the World Heritage Convention and operational guidelines, but also contributes to the global recognition of the significance of these memorial sites in preserving the memory of the genocide against the Tutsi and promoting tolerance and understanding. Mr. Chairperson, as we support this inscription of the memorial sites of the genocides of Rwanda, the Zambian delegation would also like to remind the international community of one of the decisions regarding the outcomes of the open-ended working group on sites of memory associated with recent conflicts as per Decision 18 XT-COM4, whereby the committee encourages state parties and advisory bodies in collaboration with the World Heritage Center to seek to address the skills gaps and strengthen their incompetence as well as those of managers, communities, and local communities, and in order to address particular challenges of sites of memory and associated with recent conflicts, including the preparation of nominations and future interpretation of these sites. Let us use this historic moment marked by the inscription of the first site inscribed on Africa under the new category of sites of memory as an opportunity to strengthen the capacities of African state parties in addressing the challenges of safeguarding these sites for the benefit of the present and future generations. I submit, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you so much. St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Mr. Chairman, First, thanks to the advisory body for the report and assessment. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has examined the relevant documents covering the nomination of the memorial sites of the genocide of Rwanda. We acknowledge the scope and scale of the tragic event which occurred in 1994, and while many of the conditions are not fully satisfied, the state party has given the undertaking that they will be addressed and certainly accelerated if the site is inscribed. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has listened to the discussion, and there are two areas of interest. How does the state party plan to address the conservation and protection of the sites? And what are the plans as it relates to ensuring reconciliation between the peoples of Rwanda, particularly through truth-building interpretation and educational activities? We hope that these can be addressed in the coming period and included in the report on the state of conservation of the property and on the implementation of the recommendations to be submitted to the World Heritage Committee by December 2024. St. Vincent and the Grenadines nevertheless supports the amendment submitted by South Africa for inscription of the memorial sites of genocide of Rwanda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bulgaria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. For the sake of time, we will make a brief statement. Bulgaria commends the advisory body and the state party for the continuous work on the nomination file. Bulgaria joins the consensus and wants to be added as a co-sponsor of the proposed amendments to inscribe the site on the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more interventions or comments? So now I would like to pass the floor to the state party to respond to the questions addressed by Japan, Nigeria, Italy, and also inquiries by St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Monsieur le Président, Excellences et membres du comité, je remercie les États partis qui soutiennent ce dossier et je réponds aux questions du Japon, Nigeria, Italie, St. Vincent et Grenadines. Pour la première question posée par l'État parti du Japon, qui est aussi la même que celle du Nigeria, je voudrais assurer qu'aucune contestation sur l'inscription des sites n'existe ni à l'extérieur ni à l'intérieur du Rwanda. Le choix de l'inscription au niveau national est une volonté politique de la population du Rwanda tout entière, exprimée pendant les consultations populaires et consacrée dans des dispositions constitutionnelles, légales et réglementaires. Cette population, sans aucune distinction, se recueille sur les sites de mémoire au long de l'année, avec une particularité entre avril et juillet qui correspond à la période du génocide en 1994. À travers ces sites, tous les Rwandais, jeunes et adultes, y compris les bourreaux repentis et les victimes, les justes, les expatriés et amis du Rwanda, commémorent et font ensemble le chemin de l'unité, la résilience et la réconciliation. À l'étranger, la diaspora regroupa tous les Rwandais et diverses associations. Les Nations Unies, l'UNESCO et autres institutions internationales organisent chaque année des commémorations du génocide et les citoyens de ces pays s'unissent pour la mémoire et la réconciliation. Des plaques et endroits commémoratifs ont été érigés dans plusieurs pays comme la France, l'Italie, Belgique, Suisse, Angleterre, États-Unis, Éthiopie, Canada et autres, en reconnaissance au génocide des Tutsis et sont l'expression de la mémoire et de la réconciliation. Cette inscription est historique. En ce qui concerne la divergence entre le Rwanda et le Comos, excusez-moi, Monsieur le Président, sur la manière dont le critère 6 est justifié, nous signalons qu'elle n'existe plus. Ces sites sont reconnus comme des hauts lieux de mémoire et de prévention en contribuant à lutter contre les idéologies extrémistes. Ils constituent une valeur universelle exceptionnelle à travers la transmission de l'histoire aux générations présentes et futures et symbolisent le triomphe de la paix et de la tolérance à perpétuer dans le temps. Sur la question considérant les sites de Gisozi et Bisesero comme étant moins authentiques, le Rwanda considère que leur authenticité est justifiée. En effet, si les bâtiments conservant les preuves matérielles des massacres commis sur ces sites sont postérieurs au génocide, les valeurs exprimées à travers les attributs finaux de ces sites existait bel et bien au moment du génocide en 1994. Néanmoins, le Rwanda a pris en considération les recommandations d'Oricomos et suivant ces recommandations, mon gouvernement s'engage à mener un travail plus approfondi de cartographie des attributs clés des composantes des sites de Gisozi et d'Obisesero afin d'atteindre les objectifs de conservation et de gestion, et nous collaborerons régulièrement avec Oricomos pour bénéficier de ces conseils avisés. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or concerns regarding this intervention? Japan?
Thank you very much. In light of the clarifications from the State Party of Rwanda, we support this inscription and we want to put our name as one of those co-authors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nigeria?
Thank you, Chair. Having also listened to the response of the State Party of Rwanda to our question, and after considering that the site is adequately protected and its conservation ensured, we can this first proposed site within the framework of sites of memory linked to the recent conflicts in Africa has the full support of my delegation. And to this end, we support the amendment as proposed by South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mexico?
Gracias, presidente. Hemos escuchado con atención el debate y las presentaciones e intervenciones de los demás estados parte, así como la respuesta que dio el estado parte proponente, y por ello queremos sumar el apoyo de México a esta propuesta presentada por Sudáfrica. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Thailand?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We too, I think having listened to the rationale and explanation of the State Party, I think it's important, we can support the amendments by South Africa as well. I think this is an important site to be inscribed as it promotes peace and reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I see no more comment, and I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt draft decision 45-COM 8B.51. But before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We received one amendment from the distinguished delegation of South Africa, which was co-authored by the distinguished delegations of Ethiopia, Mali, Egypt, Nigeria, and Zambia. Further, from the floor, we've received endorsement for this from the distinguished delegations of Belgium, Argentina, Oman, Qatar, India, Greece, Italy, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Bulgaria, Japan, Mexico, and Thailand. And Nigeria confirmed again, was already the co-author. So the proposed amendment, revised para 2, inscribes memorial sites of the genocide, Nyamata, Murambi, Gisozi, and Bisesora, Rwanda, on the World Heritage List on the basis of Criterion 6. Revised para 3 takes note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value. Para 4 recommends that the State Party give consideration to the following. A. Mapping the key attributes at the component parts of Gisozi and Bisesora in order to define and support the conservation and management strategies at these two serial components. B. Documenting all key attributes for all 4 component parts of the serial property and preparing a baseline for its conservation, management, and monitoring. C. Providing updated information as regards the designation of the component parts as national cultural heritage. D. Providing the updated management plan, including disaster risk management protocols and a visitor and interpretation strategy that is participatory and inclusive of all relevant actors. E. Only the word nominated is deleted, it remains same, and F remains same as original. Revised para 5 requests the State Party to submit to the World Heritage Center by 1 December 2024 a report on the state of conservation of the property and the implementation of the above-mentioned recommendations for examination by the World Heritage Committee at its 47th session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. المملكة العربية السعودية.
Assalamu alaikum. We would like to add our names to support this decision. Thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا. So I see no more comment, and they therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to examine the draft decision paragraph by paragraph. So for the first paragraph, we don't have any amendment. Do we agree to accept it as it is? I see no objections. Adopted. Paragraph 2, we have a proposal. Do we agree to the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. Paragraph 3, we have a proposal. Do we agree to the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. Paragraph 4. We have a proposal. Do we agree to the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. Paragraph 5. We have a proposal. Ethiopia.
Thank you, Chair. December 2024, is it 47th or 46th session? Just to check. Thank you.
It would be 47th session. Thank you. That would be in 2025. If you submit in December, on December 1, 2024, the next session that it's examined would be around June, July 2025.
Are there any comments or objections? I see none. The paragraph is adopted as amended. Dear colleague, I invite you to adopt the draft decision as a whole. And if there are no comments, I declare draft decision 45Com 8B.51 adopted as amended. Congratulations to Rwanda. Congratulations, Rwanda, on behalf of the entire committee. You may have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, au nom de ma délégation, je voudrais remercier les États parties qui nous ont soutenus, conseillés et accompagnés depuis le début de ce dossier jusqu'à son aboutissement. En ce jour du 20 septembre 2023, où le site mémorial de Gisozi, Nyamata, Morambi et Bisesero, représentant la spécificité du génocide commis contre les Tutsis, viennent d'être inscrits dans le patrimoine mondial. Je remercie également le Centre du patrimoine mondial et le Fonds africain du patrimoine mondial qui nous ont soutenus. Je remercie également l'État d'Afrique du Sud qui a présenté l'amendement dans ce sommet ainsi que tous les co-auteurs qui l'ont appuyé. En inscrivant ce site, vous venez de rendre une décision historique qui porte une valeur universelle exceptionnelle de protéger la vie en tout temps et en tout lieu. C'est une décision qui va dans la continuité de la résolution 955 du Conseil de sécurité du 8 novembre 1994 qui, après avoir reconnu qu'il y avait eu un génocide contre les Tutsis au Rwanda, a établi le tribunal pénal international pour le Rwanda chargé de juger les principaux auteurs de ce crime et de participer à travers la justice à la réconciliation nationale au Rwanda. C'est aussi une continuité de différentes décisions des Nations Unies, notamment la résolution de l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies de 2018 consacrant la date du 7 avril de chaque année comme une journée internationale de réflexion sur le génocide perpétré contre les Tutsis au Rwanda. Depuis plusieurs années déjà, Monsieur le Président, l'UNESCO commémore ce génocide le 7 avril de chaque année. Il ne restait donc que l'inscription dans le patrimoine mondial des sites représentant ce génocide, ce qui vient d'être fait ce 20 septembre 2023. Cette inscription est historique car elle est la première en Afrique qui marque l'entrée des sites de mémoire sur la liste du patrimoine mondial, car jusqu'à aujourd'hui, le continent africain n'avait aucun site de mémoire inscrit. Nous saluons le Comité du patrimoine mondial qui vient de rendre une décision de rappeler que la vie humaine a une valeur bien plus profonde que celle des bâtiments architecturaux, des animaux ou des chefs-d'œuvre portant une valeur universelle réalisée par l'homme. Cette inscription signale que la vie de la personne humaine qui réalise des œuvres que le comité protège doit être sauvegardée en premier et de façon irrévocable. Le site de Gisozi, Nyamata, Murambi et Bisesero, qui viennent d'être inscrits depuis 2012, sont des symboles de mémoire et de réconciliation, car le gouvernement qui a ensanglanté le Rwanda en 1994 ne pensait jamais que les victimes allaient obtenir justice et que le pays allait revivre avec un peuple uni et réconcilié. Ce site joue un rôle clé dans ce processus et l'inscription contribuera à faire avancer encore davantage le Rwanda vers la résilience et la réconciliation pour les générations présentes et futures, pour qu'elles n'oublient pas ce génocide et pour que de telles atrocités ne se reproduisent plus jamais au Rwanda ou ailleurs. Je conclus en signalant que l'inscription de ces sites vient à point nommé car le Rwanda est en pleine préparation de la 30e commémoration du génocide qui débutera le 7 avril 2024. Et cette inscription marque encore une fois la victoire de la vérité historique sur la cruauté du génocide et son négationnisme. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Congratulations again. So now I invite ICOMOS to present the transnational nomination of the funerary and memory site of the First World War, Western Front, Belgium and France. ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Cette présentation pour l'évaluation de l'ICOMOS sous site funéraire et mémoriel de la Première Guerre mondiale, Front Ouest, Belgique, France. L'évaluation de l'ICOMOS se trouve dans le document .8b1 à la page 15 de la version anglaise et à la page 29 de la version française. La présente proposition de description a été évaluée par l'ICOMOS en 2018. Toutefois, à cette époque, en raison des questions fondamentales posées par cette proposition de discussion, le Comité du patrimoine mondial décidait d'enjourner l'examen de ce bien jusqu'à une réflexion globale a eu lieu et que le Comité a débattu et décidé si comment des sites associés à des conflits récents et d'autres mémoires négatives et controversées pourraient se rapporter à l'objet et au champ de la Convention du patrimoine mondial. Cette réflexion a conduit à l'adoption par le Comité du patrimoine mondial des principes directeurs pour la préparation des propositions de description concernant les sites de mémoire associés à des conflits récents. La proposition de description conserve la même configuration en termes d'éléments constitutifs, la même justification de l'inscription et les mêmes critères que la proposition évaluée en 2018. En conséquence, l'ICOMOS a poursuivi sa révision de son évaluation à la lumière des informations complémentaires fournies par les États parties et des principes directeurs approuvés en janvier 2023. La prochaine, s'il vous plaît. Les sites funéraires et mémoriels de la Première Guerre mondiale Front-Ouest est un bien en série transnationale comprenant 139 sites situés entre le nord de la Belgique et l'est de la France, le long du front ouest de la Première Guerre mondiale, où la guerre fut menée entre l'Allemagne et les forces alliées de 1914 à 1918. Les éléments constitutifs proposés pour l'inscription varient par leur échelle, allant de grandes nécropoles conservant les dépouilles de dizaines de milliers de soldats de plusieurs nationalités à des petits cimetières plus simples, ainsi que des monuments commémoratifs. Les éléments constitutifs du bien comprennent différents types de nécropoles, militaires, cimetières de chambres de bataille, cimetières d'hôpitaux, cimetières où les dépouilles furent regroupées plus tard, souvent associées à des monuments commémoratifs. Les principes directeurs, avec les informations complémentaires fournies par les États parties, ont permis à l'ICOMOS de comprendre comment le manque de clarté dans la définition du bien proposé pour inscription pourrait être résolu et dans quelles conditions un ensemble d'éléments constitutifs proposés pour inscription pourrait être considéré comme un reflet matériel d'un événement ayant une signification universelle exceptionnelle et d'une période significative de l'histoire humaine, ainsi que comme une réponse à tel événement. En 2018, les Commons considéraient que la justification des 3 critères sélectionnés, 3, 4 et 6, n'était pas démontrée. Toutefois, les critères 4 et 6 auraient pu être justifiés. Les principes directeurs, les informations complémentaires fournies par les États parties et une plus grande réflexion sur cette proposition de discussion ont conduit les Commons à mettre l'accent sur des arguments pouvant potentiellement démontrer les critères 4 et 6, considérés conjointement, mais pour des arguments différents de ceux que proposés par les États parties. Diapo suivant, s'il vous plaît. En 2018, l'ICOMOS a exprimé des réserves fondamentales sur la manière dont la série proposée pour inscription avait été conçue et sur les arguments proposés pour justifier l'inscription. Les principes directeurs, la réflexion d'ICOMOS et une analyse approfondie du dossier ont permis de préciser ce qui pourrait être une définition plus claire de la série et des raisons potentielles de son éligibilité à une inscription sur la liste patrimoine mondial. En 2018, les Commons considéraient que, d'une manière générale, l'intégrité et l'authenticité de la série proposée pour inscription n'étaient pas démontrées. Les informations et explications complémentaires fournies en 2023 par les États parties, l'analyse de l'ICOMOS ont aidé l'ICOMOS à identifier les éléments constitutifs de la série proposée qui devraient être retirés du bien en série proposée pour inscription car ils ne contribuent pas à exprimer la valeur universelle exceptionnelle potentielle. Ces éléments sont les suivants. Éléments qui ne reflètent que des valeurs nationales, éléments qui ont été créés pour des événements autres que la Première Guerre mondiale, qui sont associés à ces autres événements et pour lesquels le message est flou par rapport à la justification de l'inscription. Éléments constitutifs qui offrent un message semblable à ceux d'autres éléments constitutifs, mais dont les qualités par rapport aux attributs proposés sont mineures ou absentes et ne contribuent donc pas à exprimer les attributs soutenant la justification de l'inscription. Par ailleurs, la définition donnée par les principes directeurs de ce qu'il faut entendre pour site de mémoire dans le cadre de la Convention du patrimoine mondial a aidé à éclaircir celle de la série proposée pour inscription et soutient un recentrage sur les sites funéraires, car il contient un témoignage matériel de l'événement qui est commémoré. Ce qui a conduit à proposer l'exclusion des mémoriaux délibérément construits pour commémorer les morts au combat de la Première Guerre mondiale qui ne sont pas inclus ou pas clairement reliés à des cimetières ou à leur conception. Les problèmes concernant l'authenticité des éléments constitutifs individuels en termes de capacité à transmettre les attributs soutenant la justification de l'inscription sont parallèles à ceux de l'intégrité et peuvent être réglés en retirant les éléments constitutifs identifiés dans l'évaluation du Commons. Enfin, un certain nombre d'ajustements des limites et de quelques éléments constitutifs proposés pour inscription et retenus dans la série réduite suggérée par les Commons ont été identifiés comme étant nécessaires pour assurer l'intégrité et l'authenticité du bien. Diapo suivant, s'il vous plaît. La protection juridique des éléments constitutifs proposés pour inscription s'est considérablement améliorée et au moment de l'approbation de l'évaluation de l'ICOMOS, seuls quelques éléments constitutifs en France attendaient encore de bénéficier d'une désignation de protection au titre du patrimoine. Il importera de finaliser ce processus pour tous les éléments constitutifs retenus dans la série proposée pour inscription. De son côté, la coordination de la gestion transnationale ne semble pas avoir progressé depuis 2018 et a besoin d'être renforcée de manière significative et rendue opérationnelle. Il convient d'accueillir favorablement et encourager l'information selon laquelle en France, la signature d'un accord cadre rassemblant tous les acteurs responsables issus des institutions nationales, gestionnaires des sites et représentants d'administrations locales est prévue, afin de renforcer la coordination et la collaboration sur les projets et des actes de gestion essentiels. Une approche commune pour la conservation et l'entretien fait toujours défaut et les approches mises en œuvre à ce stade restent fragmentées. Cela se traduit par un état de conservation inégal des éléments constitutifs proposés pour inscription et des activités d'entretien qui souvent ne sont pas fondées sur la prise en compte des valeurs patrimoniales de ces sites constitutifs. Une stratégie d'interprétation et de présentation coordonnée et partagée pour l'ensemble de la série et pour chaque élément constitutif proposé pour inscription, ainsi que pour son importance et sa signification par rapport à une compréhension globale des répercussions de la Première Guerre mondiale, nécessite d'être élaborée et mise en œuvre de toute urgence. Diapo suivant, s'il vous plaît. En conclusion, l'ICOMOS considère que le critère justifiant la valeur universelle exceptionnelle proposée n'ayant pas été démontré à ce stade, les attributs de la valeur universelle exceptionnelle ne peuvent être confirmés et l'intégrité telle que définie dans les orientations devant guider la mise en œuvre de la Convention du patrimoine mondial n'est pas démontrée à ce stade, mais pourrait l'être par une série réduite excluant les éléments constitutifs mentionnés dans l'évaluation de l'ICOMOS et sur la base d'une justification révisée de l'inscription et d'une formulation révisée des critères 4 et 6. L'ICOMOS considère qu'une série réduite et recentrée comme suggéré sera suffisante pour transmettre les valeurs universelles exceptionnelles proposées. Et ici, c'est le résumé de l'évaluation de l'ICOMOS de la valeur universelle exceptionnelle proposée pour le bien. Diapo suivant, s'il vous plaît. En conclusion, l'ICOMOS recommande que la proposition d'inscription des sites funéraires et mémoriels de la Première Guerre mondiale, front ouest, Belgique-France, soit renvoyée à les États parties pour les raisons principales suivantes. Réduire la sélection des éléments constitutifs de la série proposée pour inscription pour se concentrer sur les sites funéraires, exclure les éléments constitutifs qui ne reflètent pas que des valeurs nationales, exclure les éléments qui ont été créés à l'occasion d'événements autres que la Première Guerre mondiale, aussi les éléments qui ne contribuent pas à la justification de l'inscription et les éléments qui présentent moins d'attributs ou qui ne remplissent pas les conditions d'intégrité et d'authenticité. Recentrer la justification de l'inscription selon la formulation révisée pour les critères 4 et 6. La prochaine, s'il vous plaît. Protéger tous les éléments constitutifs au titre des désignations nationales conformées à la législation en vigueur sur le patrimoine, ajuster les limites des éléments constitutifs proposés pour inscription, signer et mettre en œuvre l'accord cadre préparé par l'État partie de la France parmi tous les acteurs concernés par la gestion et de la section française de biens en série proposés pour inscription. La prochaine, s'il vous plaît. Adopter une approche commune de conservation et de gestion qui préserve la spécificité de chaque élément constitutif et renforce leur capacité à transmettre la valeur universelle exceptionnelle proposée du bien en série proposée pour inscription, renforcer la coordination et la coopération transnationale en matière de gestion, et élaborer une stratégie commune d'interprétation transnationale pour le bien en série. L'ICOMOS inclut davantage des recommandations dans le projet de décision afin d'aider à la conservation à long terme du bien. Diapo suivant, s'il vous plaît. Merci pour votre attention.
Thank you very much, ICOMOS, for this presentation. I would like to see if there are any comments concerning this nomination. India.
Excellency, request you give us the floor after the amendments are presented. The state party who's presenting the amendment may kindly be given the floor before us, and then we can give us. Thank you.
South Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, for providing South Africa the opportunity to comment on this nomination. We may all recall that when Belgium and France submitted the nomination of the funerary and memory sites of the First World War, Western Front, in 2017, it led to the establishment of the open-ended working group on sites of memory of recent conflicts. This nomination, therefore, provided us with the opportunity to engage in a comprehensive reflection about sites of memory and their place on the World Heritage List. In our estimation, Mr. Chair, this nomination can be considered as an outstanding example of a World Heritage property based on the preservation of our collective memory, on reconciliation and promoting peace, attributes representing the overarching purpose and spirit of UNESCO, as well as values that are very close to us as South Africans. We therefore support the inscription of this site. Mr. Chair, further that the victims who are an integral part of this nomination originated from more than 130 countries and were buried on Belgium and French soil. More importantly, the nomination dossier demonstrates how these victims have all been equally honored, respecting their religion, culture, and origin, regardless of rank or affiliation. This is of particular significance to South Africa as one of our memorial sites, Delville Wood, is included in the dossier. This is where an African soldier, Mr. Beleza Miengwa, is buried, representing all members of the South African Natives Labour Corps who participated in the war, but who were not recognized as active soldiers at the time. He is a symbol of reconciliation and nation building, as his presence acknowledges their contribution during the war. Mr. Chair, South Africa has therefore carefully looked at ICOMOS analysis as well as the counter-arguments put forward by the two state parties. We have also taken note of the concerns raised by ICOMOS, notably regarding the focus of the nomination and the composition of the series. In this regard, we are glad to see ICOMOS recognizes the outstanding universal value of the proposed property, acknowledging its historical and commemorative significance. Whilst the First World War undoubtedly had a global impact on all the nations, we agree with the position of Belgium and France that the lessons learned from the First World War cannot purely be limited to the military aspect of the war. Instead, we consider that the outstanding universal value rests in the manner and dignity in which the victims of the war were treated, as well as the commemorative landscape that was created afterwards. As such, South Africa feels that the positive message of reconciliation and peace that this property represents is fully consistent with UNESCO's mandate. We have therefore presented an amendment to inscribe the nomination as it was originally submitted in 2013. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
So, India, I would like to take the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving the floor to India on the agenda item 42 Com 8B.52, Funerary and Memory Sites of the First World War, Western Front, Belgium and France, which has got a referral recommendation by the expert body, but we have amendments presented for inscription. I thank the World Heritage Secretariat and the advisory body for their work and request inscription with continuation of discussion between the state parties and ICOMOS. These sites are a testament to the sacrifice of over 75,000 Indian soldiers who etched an indelible mark on history as they defended present-day Belgium, France, and Western Europe, along with nationals of more than 130 countries during the First World War. Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, on 11th of April 2015 at the Neuve Chapelle Indian Memorial in France, while paying his respects, said, "I am honored to pay homage to the Indian soldiers here at the Indian Memorial at Neuve Chapelle. Our soldiers who fought in foreign lands in the Great War have won the admiration of the world for dedication, loyalty, courage, and sacrifice. I salute them." The Commonwealth War Graves Commission, CWGC, ensures those who died in service or as a result of conflict are commemorated so that they and the human cost of war are remembered and their stories kept alive. We co-author and support the South African amendment. In light of the success of the discussions held in the working group last year, we firmly believe that these sites, with their historical significance, are ready for inscription onto the World Heritage List. The outstanding universal value they embody is not only evident, but serves as a reminder for future generations, reminding us of the importance of preserving our shared heritage and the stories that bind us together. Let us continue to work together in safeguarding our shared heritage for the benefit of all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Zambia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine is just a simple clarification from the advisory body. I've seen that the site has qualified on comparative analysis, and is it on protection? And when you look at most of the sites which are referred, in most cases, there are sites which must have passed most of those elements. So I'm wondering as to why the advisory body has pushed the site for referral, when we know that when a site is pushed for referral, it means it has qualified on a number of aspects. Having said this, we take note as a state party of Zambia of the fact that, the state party was, the proponent of this site, or in this case, the country which submitted this nomination, was one of the pioneer sites in terms of, trying to champion the cause for nominating sites on memory. So that being the case, as a state part of Zambia, we are inclined to supporting those who are pushing for the inscription of this site. I submit, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Egypt?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, permettez-moi tout d'abord d'exprimer la sincère appréciation de l'Égypte pour le message de paix et de réconciliation au cœur de cette nomination. Nous sommes particulièrement impressionnés par l'inclusion méticuleuse de plusieurs religions et cultures, comme en témoigne la grande diversité de tombes et de monuments mettant à l'honneur les soldats du monde entier. Ce remarquable ensemble de sites témoigne d'un profond respect pour l'origine culturelle et la religion de chaque victime. Ces éléments dépeignent collectivement une représentation précise de la diversité des victimes de la Première Guerre mondiale. Sur le front occidental, des défunts de 130 nationalités sont inhumés et honorés. Il ne s'agit donc pas seulement d'un patrimoine belge ou français, il s'agit d'un patrimoine partagé par les 130 pays dont les soldats reposent en ces lieux. Ce site, Monsieur le Président, ne sont pas là pour mettre en lumière l'art de la guerre, mais plutôt pour refléter la réconciliation dans sa dimension universelle. Ils sont le témoin d'un événement historique dont les conséquences continuent d'influencer de nombreux pays et de populations jusqu'à nos jours. Dans ce sens, nous souhaitons joindre la voix de l'Égypte à celle de nos collègues qui ont soutenu l'amendement présenté sur cette décision. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines thanks ICOMOS and the State Party for their work on this nomination. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, whose nationals served and perished in both World War I and World War II, has examined this submission with great interest and in considerable detail. This transnational property has a collection of 139 sites, comprising military battlefield burial grounds, hospital cemeteries, and grouped burial sites. Somewhere amongst these subterranean collections is an identified Vincentian soldier, a Mr. Brown from Chateaubelair, a rural village on the west coast of St. Vincent. And there may well be others not so far identified. The potentialities remain important for future generations of displaced descendants of these citizen soldiers. St. Vincent and the Grenadines notes the work done over time by various professionals in establishing designs and layouts of these sites. It reflects the significance of the conflict and the desire to honor and remember in perpetuity all those soldiers and civilians who perished as they came from all over the world. This establishes at the outset the universal importance of the collective sites and their outstanding significance and tremendous value over time. We can reflect on the ceremonies held to commemorate the dead from as early as the 1920s up to 2018. There are challenges, yes, but such can be expected with trying to manage such a large area. This, however, does not diminish the OUV of the sites, even as sites of memory. For this reason, The suggestion to exclude the monuments from the collection is neither credible nor justified. All must be included to make the story complete. As a matter of fact, we can argue that the exclusion effectively reduces the OUV and insists on a coloniality of mindset, which has no place in this consideration. The many repeated visits by family members and visitors alike bring closure and peace within a holistic environment of honor and memory to those who made the ultimate sacrifice. The state party has provided justification for the site to be inscribed as an outstanding reflection of the global scope, scale, and devastation of war and the human loss, just to borrow a few words there. The state party is asked to submit the World Heritage Center to the World Heritage Center by 1st December 2024, a report on the implementation of the outlined recommendations for examination by the World Heritage Center at its 47th session. We anticipate receiving this report. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, however, supports the amendment to the draft decision as presented by South Africa and the inscription of the funerary and memory sites of the First World War, Western Front, Belgium, and France on the World Heritage List on the basis of criteria 3, 4, and 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Japan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, like others, we would like to express our appreciation to both the state party of Belgium and France, as well as the evaluation body for their work on this complicated and challenging file. We do recognize the historical meaning of global significance in this particular property, which consists of 139 components, paying tribute to the sacrifices of soldiers from all over the world. So Japan is generally in favor of the inscription of this particular point, of this particular property. Now, there are some differences in views regarding the coverage of the components. In our impression, the evaluation body attaches importance to more focused and better defined scope of the components in this property. But on the other hand, the state party of Belgium and France attach importance to more comprehensive commemoration of the sacrifices from all over the world. Now, I have heard statements from South Africa, India, Egypt, and St. Vincent and Grenadines, whose citizens were actually involved in this property. So we do believe that the comprehensive commemoration of all the sacrifices in the world is a very important element in this particular property. Nevertheless, I would like to ask the State Party of Belgium to express their views about the points expressed by ICOMOS in this regard. At the same time, another important issue from our perspective is that we understand that there is no contestation against the inscription of this particular property. But I would like to ask for a confirmation on this issue from the State Party of Belgium. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sultanate Oman.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Oman delegation acknowledges considerable efforts being made by the two state parties in the preparation of this serial nomination. We also recognize the importance of this nomination that reflects the memory and high degree of respect of the nations and peoples of both state parties. Mr. Chairperson, we believe that this nominated property has the potential to justify the outstanding universal value under criteria 3, 4, and 6. Therefore, we support the amended draft decision proposed by South Africa that recommends the inscription of the funerary and memory sites of the First World War, Western Front, that is Belgium and France, on the World Heritage List on the basis of these three criteria. Moreover, we would like to thank ECOMOS and all advisory bodies for their important recommendations in regards to this nominated property. However, we believe that it would be logical to keep the total number of sites as it is, that is 139 sites. This is in order to rebound the amount and diversity of victims from around the world in terms of religion, culture, and origin. Oman also encouraged the two state parties to continue their efforts in protecting the OUV of the nominated serial property and to work together in order to conduct the proposed periodical evaluation of the state of conservation of this nominated property. I thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Mali.
Monsieur le Président, l'ICOMOS reconnaît la VIE des sites proposés et souligne leur importance historique et commémorative. Il semble, sauf erreur de notre part, que l'angle choisi dans le dossier de candidature pour la VIE est bien le respect fondamental de chaque individu victime des combats civils et militaires. Dès lors, la VIE réside dans le respect profond envers chaque victime, quelle que soit son origine. Et ainsi, le paysage commémoratif revêt une importance universelle exceptionnelle. C'est dire que la tradition vivante de la pratique commémorative mentionnée dans le critère 3 est une part indissociable de cet héritage. Concernant la gestion et la protection des sites, nous pensons que la dynamique d'une inscription sur la liste du patrimoine mondial renforcera la coordination et la protection irrélative en consolidant les liens entre les initiatives de conservation et la collaboration encore plus active entre les acteurs locaux engagés fondamentalement dans les actions de conservation des différentes composantes du bien. Au regard de ces éléments, tout en saluant le rapport d'évaluation de l'ICOMOS et en encourageant les États parties qui s'engagent à poursuivre leurs efforts, nous appuyons les amendements proposés par l'Afrique du Sud pour l'inscription du bien. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor on this this item of historical recognition. On behalf of Nigeria, I wish to express our support for the South African amendment, echoing the sentiments of our esteemed colleagues who have already spoken in this sense. The inclusion of memory sites on the World Heritage List marks the beginning of a new chapter for our convention. This significant milestone owes its establishment to the remarkable efforts of the open-ended working group, whose diligent work culminated into the adoption of the guidelines last January. Although it was decided then that the guiding principles do not apply to the current nomination under examination, we acknowledge Belgium and France's active participation in the drafting and look forward to seeing the Belgian and French nomination on the World Heritage List. Having said that, we would like to ask the following question to the submitting party regarding the interpretation strategy that is developed regarding this site. First, how do we avoid potential distortion of memories, and how do we foster deeper comprehension on the complex history surrounding the First World War? Second, could the state party provide further details on how the narratives related to the formerly colonized nations be integrated in the interpretation of the site? Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much. Rwanda.
Thank you, Chairperson. For the first time in years, this committee is examining 3 significant memory sites for inscription on the World Heritage List. Yesterday and today, decision to inscribe Rwanda, Argentina memorial site marks the culmination of inclusive dialogue among all state parties to the convention. We all agree and share the same objective of addressing the complexity of our common history as a means to promote peace and reconciliation, among others. The proposed inscription of the funerary and memory site of the First World War, submitted by Belgium in and France in 2017 has initiated comprehensive reflections about site of memories and its place on the World Heritage List. Victims originating from more than 130 countries are an integral part of this nomination. Chair, the amendment presented by South Africa took into account the recommendation made by ICOMOS. Together, let us work towards a future where the conservation of World Heritage sites can also stand as a testament to our commitment to peace, reconciliation, and the preservation of our collective memories. Chair, Rwanda delegation supports the inscription of this site and wishes to co-author the amendment presented by the said parties of South Africa. Shukran Jazira, Said Rais.
Afwan Jazilan, Italy.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous souhaiterions rappeler encore une fois que les sites de mémoire associés à des conflits récents doivent être jugés par rapport aux ceux de la valeur universelle exceptionnelle comme tous les autres sites. Également, comme a bien été souligné dans les résultats du groupe de travail à composition non limitée sur les sites de mémoire associés à des conflits récents, et comme ce comité vient de rappeler dans le cas de Rwanda, l'inscription de tels sites devrait servir la mission de l'UNESCO de consolidation de la paix. Par rapport au site funéraire et mémorial de la Première Guerre mondiale, Front Ouest, proposé par la Belgique et la France, nous considérons que ICOMOS, même si avec une perspective différente de celle des proposants, reconnaît en effet une valeur universelle exceptionnelle, soulignant notamment l'importance historique et commémorative. Quant à la mission de l'UNESCO de consolidation de la paix, nous considérons qu'il s'agit ici d'un site qui peut représenter d'une façon excellente l'esprit de dialogue entre les cultures et les religions à travers un paysage mémoriel qui va au-delà des frontières temporelles et géographiques. C'est aussi la raison pour laquelle nous partageons la volonté des proposants de ne pas réduire de manière importante le nombre de sites inclus. Nous considérons que la sélection proposée est bien justifiée dans l'approche de la proposition d'inscription et de notre côté, nous saluons le fait qu'il y ait aussi un cimetière italien à côté de 130 autres nationalités dans cette dimension réellement universelle. Monsieur le Président, l'Italie soutient donc l'amendement présenté pour l'inscription du site. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Mexico.
Señor presidente, hemos analizado con interés esta nominación y escuchado con atención la presentación de ICOMOS. Vemos que el expediente concierne 139 sitios cubriendo un vasto espacio geográfico que abarca desde el Mar del Norte hasta la frontera franco-suiza. El reporte del órgano evaluador señala que esa cifra es elevada para un bien en serie. Tomando esto en cuenta, solicitamos a la parte proponente proporcionar mayores detalles sobre el razonamiento y la decisión que llevó a seleccionar estos 139 sitios para su nominación. Gracias.
Thank you very much. دولة قطر.
Shukran, Saïd Raïs. Je vais commencer par le remerciement de la évaluation body et les États partie de ce site en vue de la préambule de l'acte constitutif, Monsieur le Président de l'UNESCO proclame que, je cite, « Les guerres prenant naissance dans l'esprit des hommes. C'est dans l'esprit des hommes qui doivent être élevées les défenses de la paix. » Monsieur le Président, en vue du rapport d'évaluation de body, et nous pouvons regarder, nous pouvons marquer les principes et les valeurs qui portent ce site. En lisant de l'histoire de ce site, nous pouvons remarquer en plus, depuis le premier moment, les valeurs universelles exceptionnelles. Monsieur le Président, j'ai vu personnellement et sur place ce site et comment la diversité de sacrifices de toutes les religions a été pour un seul objectif, qui était la paix et pour l'humanité. Monsieur le Président, pour ces raisons, l'État du Qatar soutient l'amendement de l'Afrique du Sud. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Ethiopia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I would like to appreciate the state parties of Belgium and France for bringing forward such an important nomination. As mentioned by many of the committee members, this nomination has a global significance. The cemeteries nominated may be in France and Belgium, but the heroes who are laid down there are from different corners of the world. So Ethiopia strongly supports the amendment by South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Argentina.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Agradecemos al ICOMOS por la presentación de su completo informe, así como a Bélgica y Francia por la nominación de este sitio de memoria ligado a uno de los conflictos más devastadores de la historia de la humanidad. Destacamos que el ICOMOS reconoce en el informe mencionado el valor universal excepcional del sitio, a la vez que enfatiza su significado histórico y conmemorativo. Al respecto, quisiéramos apoyar el proyecto de enmiendas presentado por Sudáfrica a fin de integrar en la propiedad a los sitios que fueran seleccionados originalmente. Tales sitios representan solo un pequeño porcentaje de los sitios funerales de memoria del frente occidental de la Primera Guerra Mundial. Sin embargo, cada uno de ellos refleja un enfoque único para conmemorar a las víctimas, respetando su diversidad. Resaltamos asimismo la integridad y la autenticidad del conjunto, aún en la diversidad de monumentos, estructuras y estilos arquitectónicos que conforman la totalidad del sitio. También subrayamos la tradición de ambos Estados partes en materia de conservación, visibilización del patrimonio cultural. Ello sumado a una política activa de acción transnacional que permitirá crear un ente binacional de supervisión en línea con los requerimientos específicos de las directrices operativas, desarrollar un plan de gobernanza y trazabilidad a lo largo. Estos sitios funerarios y de memoria de la Primera Guerra Mundial se han convertido en lugares de meditación y recuerdo cuyo simbolismo exalta la reconciliación, en línea con los valores que la Argentina apoya y sustenta como política de Estado en materia de memoria y verdad. Sirven además como santuarios educativos donde las lecciones del pasado pueden impartirse a las generaciones futuras, representando nuestro compromiso compartido de prevenir la repetición de eventos trágicos y promover un mundo marcado por la paz, la unidad y la comprensión. Por último, manifestamos nuestra confianza en que los Estados partes colaborarán con la Secretaría en la implementación de sus recomendaciones adicionales, aumentando los esfuerzos de conservación y coordinación con los actores interesados a fin de proteger los componentes del sitio. Deseamos apoyar el proyecto de enmiendas presentado por Sudáfrica. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Greece.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our delegation would like to thank the advisory body for this detailed report and to commend the state parties for elaborating an extended and well-established nomination, which is the result of a thorough documentation and constructive collaboration between the two countries. Taking into account the submitted information and the guiding principles for the preparation of nominations concerning sites of memory associated with recent conflicts, we strongly support the inscription of this nomination. In this regard, we consider that the funerary and memorial sites of the First World War in Belgium and France bear witness to a completely new architectural movement which features a new typology of decorative, architectural, and landscape elements reflecting cultural sensitivities of national styles. Moreover, the nominated property, through its diverse component parts, presents a very complete picture of the nations and peoples involved in this conflict, implying a high degree of respect for the international testimony of the fallen of so many countries from the whole world. In view of the above, and taking also into account the intangible attributes of the nominated property, whose symbolism exalts peace and reconciliation, we support the proposed amendment by South Africa by inscribing this property on the World Heritage List on the basis of criteria 3, 4, and 6. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. المملكة العربية السعودية.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear Chair, Saudi Arabia would like to support the South African amendment in favor of the inscription of the memory sites of the First World War on the World Heritage List. These sites have a historical legacy that transcends borders and time. Their strong warning on the costs of wars left an indelible impact on numerous political leaders. Let me remind you, these sites have a historical legacy and transcends borders and time. Their strong warning on the cost of wars left indelible impact on numerous political leaders. Let me remind you with the statement of the Director General in her opening speech of this committee. Indeed, time passes by, but sites like this will remain and be guardians of collective concessions. These sites must serve as places of reflection and essential sources of truth, of justice. Saudi Arabia believes that the lessons they convey must be preserved for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bulgaria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. La Bulgarie salue l'engagement contenu des deux États parties dans la protection et préservation de ce site de mémoire. Nous soutenons les amendements proposés par l'Afrique du Sud visant à inscrire ce site sur la liste du patrimoine mondial pour sa signification globale. Notre délégation considère que ce site représente vraiment un mémoire de paix, avec l'intention donnée à chaque des victimes de plus de 130 pays du monde entier. L'engagement des architectes et des paysagistes renommés en permet à chaque nation d'exprimer son identité et d'engager dans un dialogue intemporel des cultures et des religions. Merci.
Thank you very much. I see no more comments or interventions. So I'd like to pass the floor to the State Party of Belgium to respond to the questions addressed by Japan, Nigeria, Mexico, and inquired by Argentina.
Oui, merci Monsieur le Président. La Belgique remercie chaleureusement l'Afrique du Sud pour la présentation de l'amendement, ainsi que les autres membres du comité qui se sont portés co-auteurs. Merci aux autres membres du comité qui ont exprimé parfois de manière très émouvante leur soutien ou qui nous ont adressé des questions. Nous allons essayer d'y répondre au mieux et pour cela, nous allons structurer notre discours en 3 points. Le premier concernera le plan de gestion. Celui-ci s'appuie sur une longue histoire de préservation déjà existante. Chaque mémorial ou cimetière de notre série fait partie d'un ensemble beaucoup plus large et souvent de dimension internationale. Ces mémoriaux et cimetières font l'objet d'une protection juridique solide qui est organisée depuis des décennies, parfois plus d'un siècle, par des accords internationaux et des réglementations nationales, régionales et locales. Un élément clé de notre plan de gestion se fonde sur l'approche participative et inclusive qui vise à impliquer activement toutes les parties prenantes, depuis les gestionnaires internationaux jusqu'aux acteurs locaux. De plus, le momentum de cette inscription permettra, nous en sommes certains, de renforcer encore davantage les synergies et l'échange de bonnes pratiques pour la conservation, la valorisation et une interprétation partagée de ces sites. Le deuxième point que nous aborderons porte sur la composition de la série. 139 sites peut sembler impressionnant. Certains éléments de réponse ont déjà été mentionnés. Le nombre des États impliqués, plus de 130, ou encore l'ampleur du territoire qui est concerné, plus de 700 km de long avec une largeur pouvant atteindre 15 km, le tout parsemé de nombreux mémoriaux et sites funéraires. En fait, la sélection proposée par la France et la Belgique représente moins de 5% des sites funéraires et mémoriels de la Première Guerre mondiale qui sont recensés tout le long de ce front ouest. Cette sélection a été élaborée minutieusement. D'abord, elle illustre la qualité architecturale, artistique et paysagère de ces sites. Elle illustre également les influences artistiques venues du monde entier. Ensuite, il était essentiel, on l'a dit, de rendre hommage à toutes les victimes venues des 5 continents pour combattre sur le front ouest. Qu'elles soient connues ou inconnues, alliées ou ennemies, les victimes sont honorées sans distinction de leur origine, de leur rang, de leur classe sociale, dans le respect de leurs convictions religieuses et philosophiques. Ces cimetières et mémoriaux font partie du patrimoine des 130 pays qui se sont battus. C'est cette diversité qui confère à ces sites leur force de réconciliation. Notre troisième point portera sur l'interprétation. Cette candidature célèbre la mémoire pour la paix. La Première Guerre mondiale, on l'a dit, est un événement complexe et il est important de pouvoir regarder l'histoire en face, y compris dans ses aspects les plus sombres. Nous attachons donc une grande importance à l'intégration des récits liés aux nations autrefois colonisées, pour que leur perte dans ce conflit ne soit ni oubliée ni minimisée. Cela se traduit par une collaboration étroite avec des experts, des chercheurs. Notre but est de promouvoir une histoire partagée, de tisser une toile narrative riche, équilibrée et inclusive. Cette reconnaissance, si vous en décidez ainsi, s'inscrira dans le droit fil de la volonté des concepteurs de ces sites, sera un vibrant hommage à tous ces soldats venus des 4 coins du monde tombés sur le front ouest et constituera un appel à la coopération, la réconciliation, la paix et l'entente entre les peuples. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. So now I'd like to pass the floor to the advisory bodies, but before doing so, I'd like to give the floor to Mexico.
Monsieur le Président, nous remercions les informations détaillées fournies par la délégation de la Belgique. Nous souhaitons joindre notre voix à celle de nos collègues en soutenant l'amendement présenté par l'Afrique du Sud, en appuyant les messages de paix et de réconciliation qui se dégagent de ces dossiers et qui coïncident pleinement avec l'esprit de l'UNESCO. Merci.
Thank you very much. Ecomos, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I think there was one question from ICOMOS from the distinguished delegate of Zambia concerning why ICOMOS has recommended the referral. There were 3 main reasons. The first concerned the fact that the 2 criteria that ICOMOS has recognized having potential, criterion 4 and 6, were proposed under justification that ICOMOS didn't find convincing, but ICOMOS was able to envisage what could have been a direction for justifying this criteria. The second point was that certain sites that were included were were not sufficiently supporting the UUV in terms of being very similar to other component parts, and ICOMOS in that regard has carefully looked at the diversity that each of the component, diversity in terms of people buried. So this was some aspects that ICOMOS has looked at carefully in order to reflect the diversity. And the other aspect indeed concerned the aspect related to meeting the definition of sites of memory that is embedded into the guiding principle. I hope I have clarified why ICOMOS has provided this recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ICOMOS. So I'd like to know if there are any interventions or comments concerning this nomination. Japan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do understand the points raised by ICOMOS, but nonetheless, in this particular case, we would like to support the amendments from South Africa on this particular file in light of the clarifications by the State Party of Belgium. As we are approaching a consensus on this particular file, I would like to make a short statement. This time, 3 properties which have already been inscribed and 1 property which is about to be inscribed deal with the historical memory of global significance and are justifiable in our view in terms of 5 guiding principles. In addition, there is no contestation against their inscription. On the contrary, we do recognize widely shared sense of appreciation, sympathy, and solidarity. Those 3 properties will set excellent examples for the future nomination and inscription of the files under the category of the site memories. Now, the 5 guiding principles and contestation mechanism are actually stipulated in the decision of this committee in its 5th extraordinary session, which adopted the report of the working group on this topic. There were considerable heated debate in the working group against, and finally the agreement was reached in the end. That appeared honestly impossible at the outset. In this regard, I would like to pay my particular appreciation, my particular tribute to the chair of the working group, Madame Vera Lacuille, for her strong leadership in this working group, and also Mr. Alejandro Balsamo for his assistance, for his help in the deliberations of the working group. I think without those 2 personalities, we wouldn't have come here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So I would like to invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decision 45Com 8B.52. But before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received 1 amendment from the distinguished delegation of South Africa, co-authored by the distinguished delegations of Ethiopia, India, and Bulgaria. Furthermore, we have received support from the floor from committee members, Zambia, Egypt, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Oman, Mali, Nigeria, Rwanda, Qatar, Italy, Qatar, Argentina, Greece, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Japan. The proposed amendment, revised para 2, inscribes funerary and memory sites of the First World War, Western Front, Belgium, France, on the World Heritage List on the basis of criteria 3, 4, and 6. Para 3 takes note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value. Para 4 requests the state parties to point A and B are deleted. Revise point A. Protect all component parts through national designations in accordance with the current legislation. Stays the same. Point B is the same except removal of the term nominated. C. Finalize the framework agreement with all relevant actors for the management of the French section of the serial property. D remains same as original except removing the term nominated. E remains same and F remains same, removing the term nominated. Para 5 recommends that the state parties give consideration to A, B, C, D are deleted. E is rephrased into the para. Developing a common transnational monitoring system based on the attributes of the property and on the same set of indicators that would allow for a joint periodical evaluation of the state of conservation of the serial property. Para 6 requests the states parties to submit to the World Heritage Center by 1 December 2024 a report on the implementation of the above-mentioned recommendations for examination by the World Heritage Committee at its 47th session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decision and examine it paragraph by paragraph. So for the first paragraph, we don't have any amendments. Do we agree to accept it as it is? I see no objections. Adopted. Paragraph 2, we have a proposal. Do we agree to the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. Paragraph 3, we have a proposal. Do we agree with the proposed text? You may scroll down slowly. Do we agree with the proposed paragraph, number 3? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. Paragraph 4, we have a proposal. Do we agree with the proposed text? I see no objections. There are none, then the paragraph is adopted as amended. Paragraph 5, we have a proposal. Do we agree with the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. Paragraph 6, we have a proposed text. Do we agree with this proposal? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. Dear colleague, I invite you to adopt the draft decision as a whole, and I see no objections and no comment. I therefore declare the draft decision 45Com 8B.52 adopted as amended. Congratulations to the state parties, Belgium and France, on behalf of the entire committee. Belgium, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Excellences, chers collègues du comité, au nom de la France et de la Belgique est appartie à la Convention, nous souhaiterions exprimer aux membres du comité notre profonde gratitude pour cette inscription. Après l'inscription hier du site mémoriel argentin et ce matin du site des génocides rwandais, nous avons ouvert un nouveau chapitre à notre Convention. Et je voudrais à présent passer la parole aux régions de Belgique qui ont été porteuses de ce projet pendant un très grand nombre d'années. Et je voudrais ici me faire l'écho de tous pour les remercier pour tout le travail ardu mais constructif qui a été fait pendant de nombreuses années.
On behalf of the government of Flanders, I wish to express my deepest gratitude to UNESCO and to the committee for this exceptional inscription of the funeral and memorial sites of the First World War onto the World Heritage List, a true celebration of memory for peace. It fills our hearts with a special sense of pride that this inscription takes place, as tomorrow we will be celebrating the International Day of Peace as proclaimed by the United Nations. This inscription is the culmination of over 20 years of work, and I would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to all those who have tirelessly contributed to making this enterprise a reality. Departments, experts, site managers, local authorities, local communities, and civil society in France, Wallonia, and Flanders. I also extend my thanks to all the states that participated participated in the open-ended working group on memorial sites, as well as to its highly esteemed chairperson. Through their efforts, they have opened a new chapter for the convention, which is so dear to all of us.
Cette inscription est un honneur pour la Wallonie et pour toute la Belgique, car ce patrimoine, conçu par des architectes et paysagistes renommés, a permis à chaque nation d'exprimer son identité et sa culture et est à la hauteur de la mémoire des victimes et de la diversité de leurs origines. Ces sites de mémoire pour la paix nous rappellent de célébrer les valeurs universelles portées entre nations au sein de l'UNESCO. La Wallonie, la Flandre et la France sont fiers de participer à ce message par leur patrimoine matériel. Cette reconnaissance internationale reflète justement la contribution significative de ce patrimoine à la promotion de la paix à l'échelle mondiale. Cette inscription sera aussi un encouragement pour les gestionnaires institutionnels et les communautés locales, dont le dévouement, la bienveillance ont permis d'entretenir et de conserver ces sites depuis plus d'un siècle en Belgique et en France. Les sites funéraires et mémoriels de la Première Guerre mondiale sont un extraordinaire témoignage de réconciliation qui doit être transmis aux générations futures. Leur inscription sur la liste du patrimoine mondial est aujourd'hui plus pertinente que jamais, car elle nous encourage à bâtir ensemble un monde de paix. Ensemble, nous vous remercions, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. France, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Simplement pour dire que nous trouvons extraordinaire qu'un bien sur la guerre soit inscrit comme bien parlant de paix, de réconciliation, de fraternité et de respect des morts. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much and congratulations again. So, dear colleagues, we will now proceed with the examination of the 22 minor modifications to the boundaries of properties already inscribed on the World Heritage List. You will find the related draft decisions in document 8B as announced during the opening of item 8B for those minor modifications to the boundaries that are recommended for approval. We will go straight to the related decisions without presentation. I therefore invite Mr. Balsamo to read the list of the minor boundary modifications requested proposed for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. List of minor boundary modification requests proposed for approval. Albania, Austria, Belgium, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czechia, France, Germany, Italy, North Macedonia, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Switzerland, Ukraine, ancient primeval beech forest of the Carpathian and other regions of Europe. Belgium and Netherlands, colonies of benevolence. Bulgaria, ancient city of Nesebar. Côte d'Ivoire, Comoé National Park. Côte d'Ivoire, Thai National Park. France, French Austral lands and seas. France, prehistoric sites and decorated caves of the Vézère Valley. Georgia, Colchic rainforest and wetlands. Holy See, Italy, historic center of Rome, the properties of the Holy See in that city enjoying territorial rights, and San Paolo Fuori le Mura. Italy, archaeological areas of Pompeii, Herculaneum, and Torre Annunziata. Italy, historic center of Florence. Japan, Mozu Furuichi Kofun Group, mounded tombs of ancient Japan. Libya, Old Town of Gadames. Peru, historic center of Lima. Slovenia, the works of Josep Lesnik in Ljubljana, human-centered urban design. Spain, Paseo del Prado and Buen Retiro, a landscape of arts and science. And Switzerland, three castles, defensive wall and ramparts of the market town of Bellinzona. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments regarding this item? I see none. Therefore, I invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decisions 45 com, 8b, 54, 55, 56, 59, 60, 61, 62, 64, 65, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, and 75. But before doing so, I would like to ask our rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received no amendment for the draft decisions proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there are no comments, I therefore declare draft decisions 45 com, 8b, 54, 55, 56, 59, 60, 61, 62, 64, 65, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, and 75 adopted. So now, I'd like to invite Ikamus to present the minor boundary modification of Abu Mina, Egypt. Ikamus, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. There will be slides or not? if there is. Okay. Thank you. This is the presentation for the ICOMOS evaluation of the minor boundary modification for Abu Mena, Egypt. Next slide, please. The proposal is for a minor boundary modification of the property delimitation and to establish a buffer zone. Abu Mena represents the development of an early Christian pilgrimage center from the 5th to the 7th centuries CE that grew around the tomb of St. Menas and developed into an unparalleled complex of early Christian monastic architecture. The minor boundary modification proposes to add land plots adjoining the designated archaeological site delimited by the drainage ditch, separating the archaeological site from agricultural land and excluding some plots outside the ditch. The proposed buffer zone covers the area delimited by the drainage ditch, draining water from agricultural lands away from the archaeological site. The newly added plots are not part of the protected archaeological site, so it is not clear what protection measures would apply to the property area outside the designated archaeological site. The proposed buffer zone is very limited and can protect only from physical encroachment. It does not suffice to protect from possible development that may occur outside it. No information was provided on management regime for the wider setting to ensure that it continues to guarantee the enjoyment of the outstanding universal value of the property. Finally, ICOMOS notes that no specific management structure is yet in place and the operationalization of the management plan is uncertain. Next slide, please. In conclusion, ICOMOS recommends that the examination of the proposed minor boundary modification of the boundaries of Abu Mena, Egypt, and the proposed buffer zone be referred back to the state party in order to allow it to clarify the protection regime that may apply to the enlarged property, establish an appropriate protection designation for the area added to the property. Next slide. Establish an ad hoc management body for the property, consider enlarging the buffer zone, or at least establish mechanisms that guarantee the effective management of the immediate and wider settings of Abu Mena. ICOMOS recommends that before any new proposals are submitted, either for the property boundaries or for a buffer zone, a management plan for the property is prepared. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments concerning this minor boundary modification? I see none. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decision 45Com 8B.57. But before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No amendment is received for the draft decision 45Com 8B.57.
Thank you very much. There are no comments or questions or objections. Arman?
I have no objection about the decision, but I want to ask about the management plan that is requested. Is it before the approval of the boundary modification or after? This is the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it directed to the state party or the advisory bodies?
The advisory body.
ICOMOS?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. ICOMOS has seen that there is a management plan for which the operationalization is uncertain and it's about to expire. ICOMOS recommends that there is a management plan for the property prepared. This might be in parallel, but there should be a management plan in place in order to ensure that also the buffer zone and the modified property can be managed properly. So it could be aligned together, but should come together with the proposed minor boundary modification. I hope I have clarified ICOMOS' position.
Thank you very much, ICOMOS. Are there any comments? I see none. I therefore declare draft decision 45Com 8B.57 adopted. I also would like to invite ECOMOS again to present the minor boundary modification of historic Cairo, Egypt. ECOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. We're waiting for the slides. This is the presentation for the ECOMOS evaluation of the minor boundary modification for historic Cairo, Egypt. Next slide, please. The proposal is to modify the boundary of the property. In 2008, maps submitted in the boundary clarification process were approved by the committee. In 2012, the committee asked to further clarify the boundaries of the property and to consider those proposed by the team of the Urban Generation for Historic Cairo project. In 2015, the state party informed that the boundaries for the property and its buffer zone as proposed by the above-mentioned project had been approved, but no minor boundary modification request was submitted. In 2020, through the State of Conservation report, the state party submitted revised boundaries. The committee requested the state party to follow the procedure for minor boundary modification, and in 2022, a formal request in this sense was submitted by the state party. Cairo became the new center of Islamic world, reaching its golden age in the 14th century. Historic Cairo is an extraordinary survivor, not just for the corpus of its architectural masterpieces, but because all neighborhoods have survived, each with an exceptional richness of urban fabric and historic monuments. With this minor boundary modification request, the boundaries of the property are proposed to be considerably reduced compared with the boundaries submitted in 2008 and significantly reduced compared to the boundaries approved by the state party in 2015. The lack of clarity of the boundaries have been an ongoing cause of concerns for this property and not fully resolved in 2008 or in 2015. Equally, the World Heritage Committee expressed long-standing concern over years of the lack of conservation of the urban fabric, degradation, and new developments adversely impacting the integrity. Evaluating this minor boundary modification proposal poses issues in relation to what should be considered the status quo of the boundaries and to the lack of documentation to justify the proposed reduction of the boundaries. The retrospective statement of outstanding universal value has not been approved yet, but the adopted justification of the criteria at the time of the inscription clarifies that the historic Cairo was inscribed on the World Heritage List also because its intact fabric, urban fabric reflecting medieval planning. ECOMOS appreciates the scale and complexity of this large urban property. Establishing coherent boundaries is needed, but it should be tied with a robust strategy and linked to an approved statement of outstanding universal value. Detailed attributes and documentation of the urban structure and neighborhood and how they have evolved since inscription. Given the complexity of the issue raised by the boundaries, in ECOMOS' view, the proposal needs to be considered by an on-site advisory mission to the property to take place before a further revised minor boundary modification request is submitted. Next slide, please. In conclusion, ECOMOS recommends that the examination of the proposed minor boundary modification to the boundary and buffer zone of historic Cairo, Egypt, be referred back to the state party in order to allow to prepare, can you please scroll to the next one? In order for the state party to prepare further documentation and undertake analysis to delineate in detail the attributes of outstanding universal value based on an approved statement of OUV, prepare detailed maps that define the discrete urban neighborhood of the property and their relationship to registered monuments and attributes, demonstrate changes that have taken place to the integrity of the property since inscription. The next, please. Invite an advisory mission to property to consider proposals for modification to the boundaries and documentation and analysis and to protection and management requirements. On the basis of the advice from the advisory mission, submit a revised minor boundary modification request. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, ECOMOS. Are there any comments concerning this minor boundary modification? I see none. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decision 45Com 8B.58. But before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment. regarding this draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received no amendment for the draft decision 45,8B.58.
Thank you very much. And if there are no objections, I declare draft decision 45,8B.58 adopted. So now I would like to ask ICMOS again to present the minor boundary modification of the fortifications of the Caribbean side of Panama, Portobelo, San Lorenzo, Panama. ICMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The presentation is for the ICMOS evaluation of the minor boundary modification for the serial property fortification of the Caribbean side of Panama, Portobelo, San Lorenzo, Panama. The ICMOS report can be found in document inf.ab1 on page 273 of the English version and page 277 of the French version. Next slide, please. The serial property is made up by 9 component parts, 8 of which are located around Portobelo Bay. The proposal for minor boundary modification relates to clarifications and definitions of the boundaries of each component parts of the serial property and their buffer zones, considering the differences between them. For San Lorenzo Coastal, the boundary of the component part corresponds to the coastal itself and its upper battery. The proposed buffer zone includes both terrestrial and maritime sections. ICMOS notes that the rationale for the delineation of the buffer zone is not explained by the state party. As for the terrestrial section, it is not clear how the proposed area will ensure an additional layer of protection for the San Lorenzo component part. As regards the maritime section, the rationale for its delineation is not explained either. Next slide, please. The boundaries of the component parts in the Portobelo area correspond to those of the fortifications. The state party has identified other key elements that contribute to enhance the historic and cultural values of Portobelo, which have also been provided with a precise delimitation and the buffer zones. The state party proposes a differentiation between the individual buffer zone of each component part and a larger area referred to as the main buffer zone, which encompasses the whole area of Portobelo Bay and its surroundings, where the ensemble of fortifications and the town are located. ICMOS considers that the rationale for defining the individual buffer zones is not explicit, and these boundaries are not related to the features of the surrounding areas. ICMOS commends the work done by the state party in defining and regulating the boundaries of the component parts and their buffer zones, but considers that clarifications and eventual modifications are still pending, especially in relation to the buffer zones, in order to ensure the adequate additional layer of protection expected. Next slide, please. In conclusion, ICMOS recommends that the examination of the proposed minor boundary modification to the boundary and the proposed buffer zones for the fortification of the Caribbean side of Panama, Portobelo, San Lorenzo, Panama, be referred back to the state party in order to allow it to clarify the rationale to define the boundaries of the buffer zone in the San Lorenzo coastal and eventually consider its extension if appropriate. Next slide, please. Consider the possibility to adopt the area of the Monumental Historic Ensemble of Portobelo, established by Law 91 of 1976, as a single buffer zone that encompasses the component parts located in the area of Portobelo. Next slide, please. Elaborate an integral management plan for the serial property that clarifies the protection and management for its component parts and their buffer zones. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, ICMOS, for this presentation. Are there any comments concerning this minor boundary modification? Sultan Oman.
I have a general comments and request, because now we are discussing, and we have discussed Egypt, and now we're discussing Panama, and the list maybe it's going on and on. I want to know from the World Heritage Center, because these sites, and we know in the World Heritage Center we have region desks or section. What are the efforts made to help member states to work on this boundary modification, and any requirement, like we need also to know during the report what were the efforts made by member state in order to get rid of the comments. And now we are going on refer and defer, etc. I think the World Heritage Center and the Secretariat, I know they are doing a lot of effort, but they need to concentrate a small section maybe to follow these places. Because to us, I think it is not to inscribe, but how to maintain this inscription in the good shape that we are supposed to. So I would like to hear from the center. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think I would pass the floor to the Director of the World Heritage Center to answer your question.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je remercie le distingué délégué de Oman pour sa question. Et je voudrais rebondir un peu sur la dernière partie qui est en fait celle qui est plutôt encourageante et qui confirme effectivement le travail que nous faisons déjà. Je pense que, comme vous avez dit, les biens, quand ils sont inscrits, effectivement, doivent être conservés. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle, au sein du patrimoine mondial, travaille avec une stratégie de dialogue et d'assistance aux différentes régions. C'est pour ça que les unités régionales, effectivement, existent pour faire ce travail avec le soutien et l'appui de l'unité de nomination qui a la responsabilité de suivre ces questions et avec l'appui des organisations consultatives. Les activités de renforcement de capacités qui sont menées dans les différentes régions sont aussi menées dans ce sens-là. Les recommandations ou les conclusions des évaluations des organisations consultatives sont effectivement dans cette dynamique de montrer que la question de la révision des limites est une question qui n'est pas simplement une question purement technique, mais qui est une question qui va dans le sens de protéger à la fois les attributs qui sous-tendent la valeur universelle exceptionnelle, mais aussi qui permettent de gérer le bien dans son ensemble en prenant en compte les menaces qui existent sur ce site, pas simplement actuelles, mais également aussi futures. Et c'est cet ensemble qui nous permet de mieux apprécier les limites après qui sont proposées et qui font que nous avons ce dialogue avec vous. Et de toute façon, après ces décisions que vous prenez, nous continuons le dialogue dans ce sens-là pour permettre effectivement que ces révisions qui sont renvoyées puissent aboutir pour le bien des sites du patrimoine mondial qui sont dans vos différentes régions. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. So I hope that answered your question, Your Excellency. And also if there are any other questions or comments. So I see none, and I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decision 45Com 8B.63. But before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No amendment is received for the draft decision 45Com 8B.63.
Thank you very much. And if there are no objections, I declare draft decision 45Com 8B.63 adopted. as the next item concerns Saudi Arabia, I will ask the South Africa, the Vice Chair, to replace me for this item.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I now invite ICOMOS to present the minor boundary modification of the Rock Art in the Hale region, Saudi Arabia. ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. This is the presentation of the ICOMOS evaluation of the minor boundary modification for rock art in the Hale region, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Next slide, please. This is a serial property of 2 sites inscribed on the basis of petroglyphs and inscriptions that include a large number of animal and human figures. These are associated with 10,000 years of human history. At the time of its inscription in 2015, the World Heritage Committee recommended extension of the buffer zone of one of the components, Jabal Sinman, in order to strengthen the protection of its visual integrity. The State Party has submitted a proposal to extend the western extent of the buffer zone and has also provided some corrections to the calculations of the area of the property and the buffer zone. ICOMOS welcomes the adjustments made to the western boundary and also considers that the extension to the buffer zone to the south is needed in line with the previous decisions of the World Heritage Committee. Next slide, please. In conclusion, ICOMOS recommends that the examination of the proposed minor boundary modification of rock art in the Hale region, Saudi Arabia, be referred back to the State Party in order to allow it to, first, consider extending the buffer zone to the south of Jabal Sinman by 1.1 to 1.5 kilometers in accordance with the previous World Heritage Committee decisions, and second, to include the viewshed from the main road leading to Jabba in the buffer zone. ICOMOS has also provided some additional recommendations that are associated with the buffer zone protection of this component, such as the need for viewshed studies, monitoring indicators, and the assessment of development projects. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, ICOMOS, for your presentation. I would like to know whether there are any comments concerning this minor boundary modification. I see none. Let's proceed then. Thank you. Seeing that there are no comments and any questions, I see none. I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 45-8B.66. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendments on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have received no amendment for the draft decision 45-8B.66.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I see none. I therefore declare draft decision 45-8B.66 adopted.
Now I'd like to invite ECOMOS also to present the minor boundary modification of Krak D. Chevalier and Qalat Salah ad-Din, Syria, Arab Republic. ECOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This presentation is for the ECOMOS evaluation of the minor boundary modification for Krak de Chevalier and Qalat Salah el-Din, Syrian Arab Republic. This ECOMOS report can be found in document INF 8B1 on page 517 of the English version and page 562 of the French version. Next slide, please. The minor boundary modification concerns the buffer zone of the Qalat Salah el-Din castle. It proposes an extension of the existing buffer zone in all directions and would result in including 30 new archaeological structures together with some surrounding landscape. The World Heritage property was inscribed to illustrate the exchange of influences and documenting the evolution of fortified architecture in the Near East during the time of the Crusades. The modifications of the buffer zone aim to ensuring protection of the archaeological structures that are located outside the property but support its outstanding universal value. The view sheds from the property towards the surrounding historic landscape were also considered by the state party, thus contributing to protect the integrity of the property in visual terms. ECOMOS welcomes and supports in principle the extension of this buffer zone. However, ECOMOS notes some discrepancies between the current submitted graphic representations and those approved by the World Heritage Committee in 2006, as well as some inconsistencies related to the size of the buffer zone before and after the proposed modification. ECOMOS considers that a clearer justification for the proposed extension and a rationale for the zoning and respective protection mechanisms need to be provided. Next slide. In conclusion, ECOMOS recommends that the proposed minor modification to the buffer zone of the Krak de Chevalier and Qalat Salah el-Din Syrian Arab Republic be referred back to the state party in order to allow it to explain the methodology used to delineate the proposed boundary of the buffer zone, revise the perimeter of the proposed buffer zone to allow for greater precision in the definition of the boundary. Next slide. Clarify the size of the extension to existing buffer zone and the total area of the new buffer zone of Qalat Salah el-Din after the proposed modification. Officially endorse through national regulation the proposed extended buffer zone. Clarify the need for and the division into different zoning within the proposed buffer zone and consider simplifying it. Provide more information on any arrangements made with private landowners within the proposed extension in terms of management and the time frame for endorsement of the new buffer zone at the national level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ECOMOS, for this presentation. Are there any comments concerning this minor boundary modification? I see none. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decision 45Com 8B.67. But before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment on the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No amendment is received on the draft decision 45Com 8B.67.
Thank you very much. And if there are no objections, I therefore declare draft decision 45Com 8B.67 adopted. So, dear colleagues, we will now proceed with the adoption of statements of outstanding universal value of properties inscribed at previous sessions of the committee. I now invite Mr. Balsamo to present this point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. The World Heritage Committee here is called to actually adopt the statement of outstanding universal value For those properties actually that were not initially recommended for inscription and that were inscribed at the last sessions of the committee. You will remember the discussion we had this morning about actually this item. So the World Heritage properties inscribed at previous sessions for which we are adopting statements of outstanding universal value are the following. Chile, settlement and artificial mummification of the Chinchorro culture in the Arica and Parinacota region. Côte d'Ivoire, Sudanese-style mosques in northern Côte d'Ivoire. France, Nice winter resort town of the Riviera. Gabon, Ivindo National Park. Germany, Mathilde Noé's Darmstadt. India, Kakatiya Rudreshwara Ramappa Temple, Telangana. Iran, Trans-Iranian Railway. Netherlands, Dutch Water Defense Lines. Republic of Korea, Getbol Korean Tidal Flats. Russian Federation, petroglyphs of Lake Onega and the White Sea. Saudi Arabia, Ima Cultural Area. Spain, Paseo del Prado and Buen Retiro, a landscape of arts and science. And Thailand, Kankrachan Forest Complex. And Turkey, Arslan Stepe Mound. I think this is all. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments concerning this point? So I see no interventions. I therefore invite you, dear colleagues, to adopt the draft decision 45Com 8B.76, but before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if she has received any amendment of the draft decision proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have received no amendment for the draft decision 45Com 8B.76.
Thank you very much. So if there are no comments, I declare that draft decision 45Com 8B.76 adopted. So, dear colleagues, now that we have concluded the examination of the State of Conservation Report and the nomination of properties on the World Heritage List, we have to examine item 8C, which concerns the update of the World Heritage List and the list of the World Heritage in danger. As you will remember, in the line with the decision 18X.com3 and Annex 2 of the related document, this agenda item will be adopted without debate. The agenda item has been distributed and circulated to the committee members and also updated on the website. The updated list will be presented orally by Mr. Balsamo. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. So this is concerning document 8C that has been just distributed to you. And it's the update of the World Heritage List and the list of World Heritage in danger. The World Heritage Committee at its extended 45th session in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia inscribed 42 new properties on the World Heritage List, 9 natural, 33 cultural, and approved the extension of 5 properties already inscribed on the list. Among the successful nominations, there are 5 new cultural landscapes, and with these additions, we have now 126 properties officially recognized as such on the World Heritage List, which represent the 10.5% of the list. The breakdown by region of the new 42 properties inscribed and the 5 extensions approved at the extended 45th session is as follows. Africa, 7 properties. Arab states, 3 properties. Asia Pacific, 13 properties. Europe and North America, 21 properties. Latin America, Caribbean, 3 properties. The overall figures of the World Heritage List are now 1,199 properties, of which 933 are cultural, 227 natural, and 39 are mixed. And the breakdown by region of the list, overall list, is as follows. Africa, 103 properties. Arab states, 93 properties. Asia Pacific, 288 properties. Europe and North America, 566 properties. And Latin America and Caribbean, 149 properties. For the purpose of this count, the trans-regional properties, are counted in only one region. And out of the 50 nominations examined, 14, that is the 28%, are situated on the territory of current World Heritage Committee members. Following the debates on item 8B, no nominations were referred and 3 were referred. At this session, in 17 cases, the committee did not follow the advisory body's recommendation, which was presented in the draft decision. 9 referrals became inscriptions. 7 deferrals became inscriptions. And 1 non-inscription became a deferral. As a result of the decision relating to the status conservation of properties inscribed on the list and the decision on nomination of properties to the World Heritage List, at this session, the committee decided to inscribe 2 properties on the list of World Heritage in danger. Both are from Ukraine, Kyiv, St. Sophia Cathedral and related monastic buildings, Kiev, Perchas, Lavra, and Lviv, the ensemble of the historic center. At the same time, 1 property was removed from the list of World Heritage in danger, from Uganda, the tombs of Buganda kings Kazubi. According to this decision, there are now 56 properties inscribed on the list of World Heritage in danger. And at this session, in 5 cases, the World Heritage Committee did not follow recommendation presented in the draft decision relating to the list of World Heritage in danger. 5 properties recommended to be inscribed on the list of World Heritage in danger were not inscribed on it. Draft decision 45-8C1, 45-8C2, 45-8C3 are on page 3, 4, 5 of document AC in both its English and French version. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Passamo, for this update. Are there any comments regarding this? Sultan Oman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the Secretariat. Only number 7, the last page that we just. If the language can be revised, because we don't want to say at this session in 5 cases the World Heritage Committee did not follow the recommendation. I think we need to try to reword it in a language that it shows also a respect for the World Heritage Committee, because here did not follow, it means that we are breaking rules. We have not followed. So I do recommend that the language here to be revised.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ethiopia.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to echo what has been said by the distinguished ambassador of Oman. I think the wording ought to be revisited, and it is breaking. Well, it assumes that the committee is breaking the rules. On top of that, is it necessary to include the number of properties inscribed whereby committee members belong to? in the report, because it says 17 cases in the committee did not allow for the advisory body, it says, and at the same time, out of the total inscriptions, out of the 28% are situated in the territory of the current committee members. Why it is relevant to do that?
Thank you very much. So if there are no more questions or interventions, maybe I'll pass the floor to the Secretariat to follow up on the latest comments. Belgium?
Thank you, Chair. We would like to see this data in the report, also knowing how many nominations presented by committee members were inscribed at this session, or it's each session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. This is exactly what I wanted to say. I think the intervention by the distinguished delegates of Oman and Ethiopia was, of course, to allow us to try to revise the way paragraph 5 has been written. Paragraph 7 has been written simply because, you know, this has also been in the past where we are just informing you on the recommendations that have been followed or not followed. But it doesn't actually, and I can assure you, mean that you did not follow the rule, because the committee is the one that decides according to the rules of procedure, and you have worked according to the rules of procedure. But this is just an information, and you have decided not to follow the recommendation by the advisory bodies and the secretariat, because they are advisory bodies and we are the secretariat, and you are the body to decide. But we take note of your important comments, and it will be reflected in the summary records, and we will make sure that we take it into consideration for the next report. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Aman?
I don't want to argue, my colleague. I understand we want to see the information, but I am saying about the wording. I mean, when you say the World Heritage Committee did not follow the recommendation presented, then it can be said that the World Heritage Committee decided to put this and in a different wording, because this is now, I can understand the colleagues are not commenting, but I can look at it, it is a negative. English-wise, when you look at it language-wise, it is presented a negative connotation. Thank you. But if no comment from others, I can take it. This is my also stand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. India?
Thank you, Chair, for giving the floor. I think we also would align ourselves with what the distinguished ambassador of Oman just pointed out. I think this expression that the committee did not follow is a very strong expression. Perhaps it could be changed, the wording could be changed. Instead of saying that the World Heritage Committee did not follow the recommendation, we can say that the committee did not accept the recommendation, and therefore it gave a contrary viewpoint. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Ethiopia?
Thank you. In fact, this item ought to be, need not to have a debate. However, we are very serious on the statement, committee did not follow. It completely, we break. Thank you, the director, for the explanation given how the responsibility of the secretariat, what the responsibility of the advisory bodies. We definitely understand at the end of the day it is the decision of the committee which matters a lot. However, based on the advisory body recommendations, the committee takes its own decision is a polite way of expression. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Belgium?
Well, Chair, I'm not a native speaker, but in my opinion, we did accept the recommendations of the advisory body. We just decided to go a different way, and I would think that is we did not follow.
Thank you very much. So I'll pass the floor to the legal advisor, maybe like for some clarifications.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, of course, it's not for me to make any statement with regard to what the perceptions are with respect to the language contained herein, particularly as English is not my mother tongue. I'm not sure about what the connotations are about that. However, Mr. Chair, I should point out that the terminology that is being discussed currently is actually contained in a working document that was prepared by the Secretariat for submission to the committee. So the committee cannot change the working document of the Secretariat. The Secretariat has submitted this to the committee. The committee may express its views and even criticism to the terminology that is being used, which the Secretariat may take into account in the future in order to avoid language that might be perceived as having a negative connotation. But I would recall that the committee cannot change a working document before it. The committee is actually here to take the decisions as the draft decision, which is contained at the end of the concerned working document. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you
Chair.
very much. India?
Thank you, Chair, once again. We've listened to the opinion of the legal advisor, but unlike other documents which have been presented and shared, of course, we do understand what the legal advisor is trying to say. But this is one such document which has been actually edited. It's only after all the agenda items, that have been discussed that this is a kind of a summary document. Now herein, if we go by the argument that has been presented, that if we are saying that, this point 7, that the committee did not follow the recommendations, means that it has already been assumed that it is not, the committee is not going to follow. However, as Belgium also pointed out, that yes, we did, the advisory bodies gave a recommendation, we looked at the committee looked at the recommendation, and it did not accept that recommendation, and it gave a contrary viewpoint. So therefore, this is the reason why we are I think proposing this this intervention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. México.
Gracias, señor presidente. Entendemos los argumentos de los estados parte que se han manifestado, pero también nosotros volveríamos a reiterar el tema que mencionamos en alguna de las discusiones con la inscripción de alguno de los sitios. Creo que estamos también dejando de lado el trabajo que hacen los órganos consultivos. Si la tendencia es, como dice Bélgica, dar otra opción, ver de otra manera estas recomendaciones, creo que estamos poco a poco, este comité y el comité anterior han inscrito prácticamente todo lo que estaba propuesto, y creo que tendríamos que empezar a reflexionar mucho en el tema de si esta es realmente la vía que debemos de tener, de proseguir lo que yo mencioné, recordé de aquella, entre comillas, rebelión de los estados hacia los órganos consultivos en 2010. Creo que no son los caminos que debemos de seguir. Tenemos que hacer una reflexión más amplia y tendríamos que irla ampliando tomando en cuenta lo que había pedido el secretariado, el Centro del Patrimonio Mundial, y que el comité de alguna manera aceptó cuando estábamos llegando a las celebraciones de los 50 años de esta convención, en la Asamblea General de 2021 en París, recuerdo perfectamente que ante el anuncio del Centro del Patrimonio Mundial de la posibilidad de empezar a reflexionar sobre una nueva estrategia global, tanto Francia como nosotros mencionamos que esto era un tema importante, y esto que se está discutiendo ahorita creo que es parte de eso. Tenemos que empezar a reflexionar realmente lo que está pasando y hacia dónde queremos ir. Tenemos todos los miembros de este comité una gran responsabilidad ante todo el mundo de mantener la lista del patrimonio mundial realmente creíble, que siga siendo realmente, tratando de ser, que nunca lo vamos a poder lograr, equilibrada, pero sí la credibilidad de esta lista es un tema que tenemos que empezar a reflexionar. Gracias.
Thank you very much. So maybe I'll pass the floor to the director of the World Heritage Center for some clarifications and suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. As the legal advisor has already indicated, what we prepared is, of course, a working document. And if you remember, this item, when you adopted it at the last extraordinary session, was an item which was proposed which was proposed without debate. You know, every time you have concluded the examination of item 8B, we distribute this document. So, like I said, we have clearly heard and understood your concerns about paragraph 7, and we are going to include it in the summary records as it is clear, and we will definitely take it into account when we prepare the working document on this specific item at your next session. So I think this is what I can say, because I think we're now waiting for you to know if you adopt the draft decision as it has been presented to you by us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. India?
Thank you, Chair. I am not satisfied. I repeat. I am not satisfied by the reply of the director of the WHC, an item that is proposed without debate. Well, it's only proposed, it's not accepted. And I stand by the statement by the distinguished ambassador of Oman, who has many, many years of more experience than us. And the committee is sovereign. You're dealing with sovereign nations. This is not the case of someone is a guru and we are following. I'm sorry. The advisory body's job is to advise. The sovereign nations take a call out of their own free will. We cannot follow in this manner, so the question of not following does not arise, because that's the definition of being sovereign. You are dealing with sovereign nations. We are not dealing with a bunch of followers. That is the fundamental difference. When you deal with sovereign nations, you have to respect them as sovereign nations. It's a question of our sovereignty. This is how international diplomacy works. And that is why I find myself completely aligned with the views of the Omani ambassador, with the views of the Ethiopian, and I found that the Belgium delegation gave a very nice way out of it. We did accept certain advices, we were shown a path, and we chose to walk on a different path. So maturity is that we find a terminology that suits both sides of the argument, and we move on, rather than sticking to the position and say items proposed without debate, it will not change, that is it. I'm sorry. We are sovereign. We will not be subjected to this. It's a question of my sovereignty, and I hold my stance. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So I would like to pass the floor to the ADG for Culture.
Spanish. Estimado miembro del comité, nadie ha puesto en duda la soberanía de cada uno de nuestros países. Yo creo que la muestra es efectivamente cuando inscriben las banderas que ustedes ponen en las inscripciones. Por lo tanto, no hay duda en eso. La discusión es otra. Efectivamente, el comité es soberano de tomar y adoptar todas las decisiones que le parezcan. Y por lo tanto, cuando vamos a la decisión, si usted insiste en cambiar el lenguaje, puede hacerlo. Sin embargo, es raro que usted me pida cambiar un documento de información que pone el secretariado. Usted lo puede hacer la decisión, efectivamente, si así lo considera la sala. Pero los roles están muy bien definidos. Por lo demás, podemos ser sutiles con las palabras, podemos cambiarle el sentido, pero lo que ustedes tienen ahí es lo que pasó. Nos puede gustar, no gustar, gustar más o menos, pero no es porque le cambien la frase que va a cambiar lo que pasó. Les recuerdo que en la última sesión fue exactamente las mismas palabras usadas. Y por lo tanto, ahora lo que corresponde, como usted lo dice, que las decisiones del comité, si así lo deciden, por mayoría, por supuesto, pongan el texto que a ustedes les parezca, que refleje lo que ustedes vieron que sucedió en la sala o en la realidad. Pero con respecto a los documentos de trabajo, y esto no es la primera vez que tenemos esta discusión, no solo en el comité, sino en otra instancia del secretariado, pues bien, me parece legítimo que ustedes, tal como usted lo dijo, puede tomar la decisión de modificar, amendar la decisión que venga propuesta para su adopción. Eso es. Y usted es el que defiende la importancia de las leyes y por lo tanto acá son reglas también. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much. Belgium.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies, I don't have the document in front of me, so what I'm going to say may not make a lot of sense, but would it help if we go for a number of times the committee decided differently, which is factual and maybe not has additional meaning?
Arman?
I'm sorry, the discussion went on that side. I was only talking about language here, and I think we have gone far away in the discussion. Because when I read the sentence, it gives a negative connotation. And we said we want to twist only the sentence. That's what we are talking about. So we should not go further, a lot of discussion. I'm talking about language context only in this sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much. India?
Can we go for a revised document? We have done it before when we co-cited that the information is not fully acceptable. So can the Secretariat present to us a revised particular revision of the words that takes care of the sentiments expressed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ethiopia?
Thank you, Chair. The reason why we are coming now and then on this idea, you have been trying to mention the previous documents. This is not a Bible. This is not a Quran. This is not a dogmatic document. We have to revise it. If any independent researcher is given this document for his review, automatically what implies behind this, the committee is not working based on the scientific advices. So that we need to revisit it and reshape it according to the maybe some amending words. That is our intention. We are deciding historical issues. If we have something wrong done back, we have to revisit it and act accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will pass the floor again to the legal advisor for some clarifications.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I believe there are two discussions here which I would like to separate. The first one, which is a substantive discussion, is about the negative or positive connotation that the expressions used in the working document may have. And on this, states members of the committee may, of course, have the opinions they have, even a joint opinion they may have in that regard, and reflect this in any decisions they make, either at this session or in future sessions. On that first question, Mr. Chair, I will not take position myself, since this is not a legal issue. The second, however, discussion that is taking place here is rather a procedural one, and it does take us into the realm of the rules of procedure. And that is the fact that the document that you are discussing, which contains that terminology, is a working document that was prepared by the Secretariat and submitted to the committee for its consideration. You may disagree with it, with the terminology put into it. You may express criticisms to it and even include those criticisms in the decision, if you so wish, or in the records of the session, if you so wish. But I would advise against the members of the committee amending a working document of the Secretariat. This is not a matter of sovereignty, it is a matter of responsibility. The Secretariat has the responsibility of providing to you working documents, and it needs to retain that responsibility. As was mentioned by the ADG of Culture, we have faced similar situations in other bodies at UNESCO in which certain member states have expressed criticisms to terminology that has been used by the Secretariat in its working documents. Those criticisms were reflected either in the summary records or in decisions, but of course the working document itself is a fact. It's something that has been put in front of you. Mr. Chair, I of course defer to the decisions that the committee may wish to make on the basis of my legal advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. India?
I agree most of the time with the advice of the legal advisor, but somehow this time I find gaps in his advice. When he talks that it is not sovereignty but responsibility, may the legal advisor please let us know under which rules of procedure is a working document not editable by the committee. I want him to quote the rules of procedure, and if there is no rules of procedure, then let him explain what does he mean by responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll pass the floor again to the legal advisor.
Mr. Chair, in response to the question by the distinguished delegate of India, and indeed it is a rare occasion that we find ourselves in disagreement, even if I don't think there is such disagreement in this case. With regard to his specific question, I would refer to Rule 43, paragraph 2, which mentions the fact that the Secretariat shall, and I'm quoting, shall prepare the committee's documentation, end of quote. As to whether that provision provides explicitly whether that documentation can be changed by the committee or not, I do recognize that's not written down, but when it says that the Secretariat shall prepare the committee's documentation, it is providing to the Secretariat the duty, what I call the responsibility, is the duty to prepare for the committee this thing. Once again, I would advise against changing what the Secretariat is saying, because this could open a Pandora's box in other instances, I wouldn't say this one, but in other instances in which member states may wish to change parts of reports that the Secretariat has presented with which they disagree in terms of politics. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. India?
Thank you, Chair, and I'm sorry to take the floor again, and this is precisely why I had asked for the rules of procedure. Now, as per Rule 43, Para 2, there is no restriction on the committee to edit the documents. the responsibility which was spoken about, it is the responsibility of the Secretariat to prepare the documents. Preparing a document is a secretarial job. In an office, your secretary prepares the documents. The Secretariat, by the very name, performs this secretarial job. When a secretary presents a document, the head of the bureau, the head of the committee, or here the entire committee by itself, has the right to edit or not to edit. The secretary doing a secretarial job cannot take the power away from a hierarchical position of the committee and say, no, because the secretarial job has been done, you don't have the right to edit it. No, the very word secretariat means it's a secretarial position, and the secretarial position has done the job to just prepare the documents for the final approval or editing of the committee. Excellency, I think I have proved my point. Thank you so much.
Thank you. قطر.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. أود القول بأن نستطيع القول كأن نحن في أحد المحاضرات كليات القانون. فأود فقط أن نصوب الحديث فيما بدأه سعادة سفير عمان، فكانت ملاحظته فقط في شكل الجملة الفقرة، وهي الفقرة السابعة، وحسب ما فهمنا فلم يكن المقصود هو وثائق المعدة من السكرتارية، فبالتالي كانت فقط الملاحظة هي ملاحظة شكلية وليست محتوى. فأود فقط توضيح هذه النقطة، وإذا ارتأت سكرتارية بالتفكير في صياغة هذه الفقرة فنحن منفتحين لأي توافق في الآراء في هذا الشأن. فقط هو ملاحظتي هو أن نوضح بأن كانت الملاحظة هي ملاحظة لشكل الجملة وليس بما ذهب به النقاش بأن نفكر في موضوع المحتوى الوثائق المقدمة من السكرتارية. وشكرا سيد الرئيس.
شكرا جزيلا. جنوب أفريقيا.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We just wanted to clarify if the Secretariat has prepared a document and it is available for us as committee members on the website, and it has factual errors. Does that mean that we can't correct those factual errors? We just want to understand, therefore, what then is the objective of the Secretariat preparing document? Because our understanding is that the Secretariat exists to serve the committee members and state parties' interests in ensuring that the convention is implemented. So if we can just address what is the purpose then of the Secretariat posting a document or preparing documents, and then we hear that such a document may not be amended, even if it may have factual errors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We believe there might be a misunderstanding that now we are approving the working document. The committee is not approving 100% of the content or the wording used in the working document. So we can be in disagreement. And as it has been stated very clearly by the legal advisor and ADG Culture, this will remain in the records of the committee, that the committee or several member states, several members of the committee were in disagreement with the wording used in the working document. But still, we are not approving the working document. We are just maybe considering it, taking out of it, but we don't have to be in agreement with 100% of the content. We can express our disagreement, but we don't have to change the language of the working document itself. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I would like to pass the floor to the Secretariat to respond to the question addressed by South Africa.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que le conseiller juridique a déjà clarifié cette question. Ici, dans ce cas précis, il s'agit d'une impression que les membres du comité ont exprimée sur ce paragraphe 7 de ce document. Et je pense que les représentants de l'Oman et du Qatar ont donné des commentaires qui sont plutôt à prendre, d'après ce que nous avons compris, pour l'avenir. Et donc, l'idée était donc de dire, et je remercie la distinguée déléguée de l'Italie, qui l'a renforcé en clarifiant que ce qui est important, c'est que vous examinez un document, mais vous pouvez prendre une décision. Et donc, ce que nous vous avons suggéré, c'est que ce document, effectivement, ce que vous avez dit, soit très clairement reflété dans le résumé de vos débats, de manière à ce que nous puissions, à l'avenir, faire très clairement cette distinction que vous souhaitez. Donc, je crois que, j'espère que j'ai pu répondre à la question, mais je sais que M. l'ADG va peut-être essayer de clarifier un peu plus.
Merci. On ne va pas rester dans une grande discussion. On a clairement une vision différente. Non, la seule chose que vous voulez clarifier, peut-être je comprends mal ce qu'est une erreur factuelle. Que je sache, il n'y a pas d'erreur factuelle. C'est une constatation. On est d'accord sur le point que vous considérez que le langage n'est pas approprié ou ne reflète pas comment vous voudriez que cela soit reflété. On a très bien compris, et cela veut dire que le secrétariat non seulement le mettra dans le compte-rendu, bien sûr, mais surtout prendra en compte cela pour l'avenir, pour ne pas heurter les sensibilités des membres du comité. Ça, on l'a compris, c'est clair, et donc j'espère que le secrétariat ne commettra pas cette indifférence vis-à-vis des membres du comité, de l'exprimer à travers le langage utilisé depuis plusieurs comités. Ce n'est pas la première fois qu'on le fait. Cependant, comme l'a mentionné, vous voulez faire une constatation au-delà du rapport. Dans la décision, vous pouvez changer le wording ou mettre un amendement, une nouvelle phrase qui laisse très clair ce que vous venez d'exprimer. Et effectivement, c'est dans votre droit et vous pouvez le faire. Mais on a très bien compris, hein, je crois que le secrétariat tel qu'il a été reflété fait plus qu'être seulement le secrétariat, dans le sens où nous avons aussi une obligation de représenter ce qui se passe, et peut-être une fois de plus, et je finis là, bien sûr, il y a toujours des manières d'améliorer le langage pour ne pas heurter les sensibilités, je crois que c'est le but d'une organisation aussi belle que la nôtre. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. India?
Thank you, Excellency. I have just two questions. Number one, is this an inf document, or do you want a decision of this committee for this document? That's my first question. Do you want a decision of this committee, or just for information? Point number two, you have already mentioned a lot of figures that, for example, 9 referrals became inscription, 7 deferrals became inscriptions, which means these were the advices, and the advices, the committee chose to walk on a path of its own sovereign choosing. Now, you already have the figures mentioned under para 3. What need then is to qualify and add sentences like did not follow, because this is just re-emphasizing what has already been mentioned in numeric terms. Do you think we can do without these qualifying sentences? If yes, then we have a consensus and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll pass these questions to the legal advisor.
Mr. Chair, I will answer the first question, which has a legal component. Mr. Chair, under the present item, the committee is called to make two decisions, which are 8C1 and 8C2, and none of them makes reference to the document concerned. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In other words, if I may say, there are other cases in which in the preambular paragraphs, the committee says, having examined such and such document or taking note on such and such document. That terminology is not contained either in draft decision 8C1 nor in draft decision 8C2, to the best of my knowledge. Thank you very much. And there may be an 8C, oh, there's also an 8C3. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. India?
My question is not answered. Is this an INF document or is a decision of this committee required? I just need a very simple answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll pass the floor to the Director of the World Trade Center.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think in this working document, you have a number of draft decisions that you have to consider. These are background information that help you to take the decision, and you have before you draft decision 45.8c.1, and then you have 45.8c.2, and these decisions are decisions which you have already taken, and it's just to confirm this decision, including the number of properties that have been inscribed on the list of World Heritage in danger. So we have prepared this background information for you to take the decision. You have also decision 45.8c.3, which of course it confirmed the decision that you have taken for the removal of one site from the list of World Heritage in danger. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. India?
Thank you, Excellency. So this is primarily a background information that the Secretariat is providing. Now, in a background information, if a member state is expressing a desire, you just change one word, what difference does it make? It's just background info. It's not the draft decision. So my humble request is, that is the reason why I asked the question, was it an inf or you wanted a decision? So this is not the draft decision. Member states are not requesting you change the draft decision. What you're requesting is the background information which you have provided, just change a word or two. That's it. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much.
Vous êtes en train de parler sur ce document de travail. Le problème n'est pas ce document de travail, c'est le principe. Demain, dans un document préparé qui ne va pas à une décision, un État membre décidera de nous demander de changer le wording parce qu'il ne l'aime pas. Ce n'est pas dans une décision, hein, je parle d'un document de travail. Vous l'avez exprimé, on l'a compris, on pourra le corriger pour le futur, mais il ne s'agit pas de changer des petits mots, on parle de principe. Là, peut-être, vous voyez que ça n'affecte pas prioritairement, mais dans d'autres décisions, que ce soit ici ou dans d'autres réunions statutaires, ça peut avoir des conséquences. Donc, pour votre réponse, on vous a dit tous les instruments dans le passé qu'on a déjà utilisés. Et j'insiste, vous avez l'opportunité de le mettre dans la décision, vous avez l'opportunité d'en faire rapport, mais le document, il a été présenté comme un document de travail, et on peut l'aimer, ne pas l'aimer, mais c'est un document de travail.
Thank you, APG. So since after we have heard from the Secretariat and also from Zambia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From what I've understood, I think here now we're dealing with issues of semantics. The truth of the matter is the committee has observed that there is, the wording should have been changed, but at the same time, we are also looking at the issues of precedence, meaning that if whatsoever we do today might affect the operations of the committee tomorrow. So possibly, I'm just making a proposition. Is it possible, like it is already being suggested by the Secretariat, that the committee should take, should put it on record that whatsoever the Secretariat did was not in line with what the committee was expecting in terms of the terminology that is being used? Meaning that on record it will be there that, the terminology was not acceptable. But if we were to do it the other way around, it means we'll be, opening a Pandora's box for the, future operations. So my take is that maybe for now, for the sake of progress, let it be noted that the committee was not and is not in agreement with the wording, so that the Secretariat should know in the future that that wording should not be used. That is my submission, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. So this is what was explained by the director of the Voltage Center, since that was the standard and the practice before, but your interventions and feedback will be integrated in the summary report. And that will be taken into consideration for the future. So if you are all in agreement with this, to proceed with this and integrate the notes and observations of the committee in the summary report, we proceed. So I see we're all in agreement with this. India?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, because this discussion is going on for long and I think everybody would want to, close this, could we possibly, though I'm trying to sort of structure a sentence out of it, when we are talking about the draft decisions, 45 8C.1, 8C.2, and 8C.3, could we, where we start the World Heritage Committee having examined and all, could we write something to the effect in the paragraph saying that following the recommendations of the advisory, based on or following the recommendation of the advisory bodies, the committee, the World Heritage Committee, sort of decides to retain the following properties. So we've looked at the advice given by the advisory body, but the committee has then taken a call, and thereafter the list goes on. Something to that effect. Thank you, Chair.
So just wanted to double check with you, is it under C1 or C2?
In fact, it will be under all 8C.1, 8C.2, and 8C.3. It starts with that. If you give us a minute, we will try to propose a sentence. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, please. So I'd like to pass the floor to the legal advisor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I believe that both the distinguished delegate of Zambia and the distinguished delegates of India have made very constructive proposals which show the way forward. And in that regard, I would like to give guidance to the committee of what are the options that are available to it. First of all, Mr. Chair, it is possible, and indeed it is already the case, that the views that were expressed by the members of the committee be reflected in the summary records of the session. I believe that you have already made clear that you want this to be so, and I'm sure that the Secretariat will be able to provide, to include this, reflecting the discussion that has taken place. Second of all, Mr. Chair, it is of course possible, and this is what falls under its sovereign purview, for the committee to change its decision or even to make a decision orally through the chair today by saying, the chair could say, the committee has taken note that this terminology was used and prefers another terminology, and I would like to put on record for the current session that this is what it decided, and it is an option. And last but not least, the option that was proposed by the distinguished delegate of India is possible. That is actually a proposal of an amendment to the decision, and as other amendments have been considered during the session, it could be considered adopted by the committee, and you may continue your proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the legal advisor. India?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we ask for the draft decision to be projected so that we could propose an amendment, please? Thank
Indeed.
you.
I will ask the rapporteur to project
Mr. Chair,
the draft decision.
we'll show the draft decision 45com8c.1. It's on screen.
India?
Thank you, Chair. If we could insert in para 2 saying that having examined the recommendations of the advisory bodies, the committee has examined and then we follow decided to inscribe. So this actually goes in for all the 3 draft decisions. Thank you, Chair.
So I'll pass the floor to the rapporteur to clarify something.
You can say it.
Yeah, if we could just slightly edit this, I think we don't need the middle phrase. It can be having examined the recommendations of the advisory bodies, decides to inscribe the following properties. If that's acceptable.
So, India, does that reflect your meaning?
Excellency, at this point in time, I just want to go back to my room and listen to some nice music. So yes, we are all very tired and it's a good recommendation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's adopt it for the 3 draft decisions. So I invite you to adopt the draft decision 8C.1, 8C.2, and 8C.3. But before doing so, I'd like to ask the rapporteur if he has received any additional amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have just received 1 amendment from the delegation of India, which is shown on the screen. Rest of it is as original.
Concerning 45com 8c.1, the first paragraph, we don't have any amendment. Do we agree to accept it as it is? I see no objections. Adopted. Paragraph 2, we have a proposal. Do we agree with the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. So the whole draft decision as a whole, and if there are no objections, I declare draft decision 45com 8c.1 adopted as amended. Concerning draft decision 45com 8c.2, for the first paragraph, we don't have any amendments. Do we agree to accept it as it is? I see no objections. Adopted. Paragraph 2, we have a proposal. Do we agree with the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. And if there are no objections or comments, I declare draft decision 45com 8c.2 adopted as amended. Regarding 45com 8c.3, the first paragraph, we don't have any proposal. Do we agree to accept it as it is? I see no objections. Adopted. Paragraph 2, we have a proposal. Do we agree with the proposed text? I see no objections. Adopted as amended. And I declare that draft decision 45com 8c.3 adopted as amended. So I will pass the floor to the Director of the World Heritage Center for general announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Of course, I think it's you to, but I just wanted to let you know that the host country is inviting all the delegates at the closing event of this committee, which will take place in 2 days. So all information will be provided to you, and that will be on Friday, 22nd September, starting from 8 p.m. And all information regarding transportation and logistics will be provided to you. I just wanted you to start putting it in your calendars. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much to Mr. Director, and I would like to also remind you that the Bureau will take place tomorrow at 9:30. See you tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to inform you that the scheduled night visit to Al-Masmak Museum and Souk al-Zil and the Lion Experience, also at the Rayford Heritage Site. These places are confirmed for today. Please proceed to the pickup and drop-off areas located at the Prince Sultan Hall. We would like to announce that the night visit center is also open and is located outside the plenary center on the right side. Thanks for your attention.